What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by BetOnline. On a night that celebrates Damian Lillard's ascension to the greatest trailblazer of all time, it's Yusuf Nurkic who cements his spot as a legitimate three-point shooting threat as the Blazers take care of business in the second half to beat the Hornets 124-113. We'll have you covered with everything that went on in this game. We'll talk a little bit about the awesome ceremony after the game that celebrated Damian Lillard breaking Clyde Drexler's records for points all time as a Portland Trailblazer. It'll be fun to talk about that after a win, as obviously when Dame broke the record, it was after a loss. Thankfully, Blazers took care of business tonight. You love to see it. Eric, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. Nice to see them win, first of all, and that ceremony was really nice. As a father, very relatable, him having to play dad duties while trying to talk about his greatness the whole time. Very, very on brand for Dame as a family man. And it just shows how great of a guy he is that he can balance all that, family, being an elite NBA player, and everything that goes with it, and still can play dad at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Lamar Hurd, who I thought was terrific as a presenter, man. That dude, I love that dude as a color commentator, but it was great for that ceremony. Perfect guy to speak. Really well done on his end as well. But there was a game tonight, and we're going to have you covered with the post-game show. Hopefully everybody had a great Christmas. Let's just jump into things. As usual, we got to jump into our sponsorship with BetOnline. You can use promo code BELIEVE for 50% rewards. Get in on the fun, live betting, parlays, over-unders, all sorts of fun stuff for you to enjoy. Basketball, football, golf, if you're a golf fan, or if you're not a golf fan, might be a great way to get into it. I don't know. But use promo code BELIEVE with BetOnline. You'll receive 50% rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. Eric, it's nice to be back after a couple days off after Christmas, and it's nice that the Blazers woke up in the second half after a first half in which they struggled. We're going to talk about their struggles in that first half, and we're going to talk about the positives in the second half. We will have, or should have, our complete set of graphics finally coded on the 30th. There's 3 days off between now and then, so we should have a full graphics package then. Or if Chris is in here watching, he can also make graphics for me. I will pay him for tonight if he wants it. But let's just start off. We got to start off with Jusuf Nurkic, Eric, who was phenomenal tonight. Started the game 5 for 5 from 3. Ended up 5 for 7. Shot a couple heat check shots late. I never thought I'd see myself mad that Damian Lillard or Anthony Simons were shooting threes because I wanted Jusuf Nurkic to shoot threes, but that was kind of how the game went today. 5 for 7 from 3 after making his first 5 attempts. Also had 15 rebounds and 6 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Got it done on both ends of the floor. 28 points on 12 shots. 8 for 12 from the field. Got to the line 5 times. Just had an absolutely phenomenal game. Plus 20 in 36 minutes. But his 3-point shooting is legitimate. Like, I think tonight kind of put the punctuation mark on him truly becoming a shooter night in, night out. Looks comfortable. Form looks great. Obviously, he's making threes. He's over 40% on the season. And there was a couple of plays where he was attacking closeouts because he was getting ran off the 3-point line. And Nurkic has evolved into a legitimate 3-point shooting threat. You could make the case that he's a 3-and-D center now. Just absolutely phenomenal game from him.
Yeah, those 2 closeouts, or attack of the closeouts, that means when he's catching the ball at the 3-point line and his defender runs out at him, he drew a foul on both of those. So that's another element of this. And something that we've talked about is when you start getting respected as a shooter out there and players have to run out at you, it should create an advantage if you can put the ball on the floor. With his passing skills, I don't know how many times he's going to get to the rim like he did the first one. But with his passing skills, you would think that would open up some passing lanes for him if he just takes a dribble past the defender and someone cuts. So hopefully that's something they can exploit as he gets more respect out there on the line. into this game, he was kind of just standing around the 3-point line waiting for more 3-point shots. I've said all along that that's something I don't want him to do. I felt like all the rest of his 3-point shots were basically within the flow of the offense, wide open. He had several other ones where he was wide open and is looking to pass out of those, so he's not like forcing them or anything. I know tonight he was 5 for 5, so he was trying to get some more up there. But in the future, I want him to mix it in and do it within the flow of the offense. I don't think you need to start shooting 5 a game or anything like that. But as long as he doesn't get too 3-point happy, I'm all for this. This is nothing but positive for the Blazers.
I'll say this, man. If he's shooting 40% from 3 and is a legitimate 3-point shooting threat like that, I don't care if he shoots 30 in a game. As long like if he shoots every wide open 3 he gets, I have no problem with it. If he gets 30 wide open 3s in a game, like I am confident enough in his shot. He's confident enough in his shot. It was obvious today. That dude is confident. That dude has been money from the corners. Like, it's another floor spacer out there, man. Makes it even easier for Dame or for Ant to drive the lane because you got threats that you can kick out to. I mean, you can't just collapse like teams are prone to do. So, yeah, overall, really happy with his ascension as a 3-point shooter. And, yeah, I like him mixing it up. And that's the thing. He's a skilled enough big, and he can handle the ball well enough to be able to attack the closeouts. A lot of the turnovers he had today, he had 4 of them, was him being unselfish, top of the arc. And there was a play that stood out to me where he wasn't being guarded at the top of the 3-point line. The defender was so far off him that he couldn't throw the pass to the cutter. It just got tipped by the defender. And it's like, dude, you're absolutely hitting everything from 3 this season, compared to the past. 40% 3-point shooter on the season. After this game, it might be 50% now. He's been absolutely amazing from 3. Make that defender go out and guard you. It'll make it even easier to hit those cutters on passes. You won't have a defender sagging in the lane, clogging that up. And I think that's sort of the next evolution, is him maybe even getting a little bit more aggressive from 3. You want to see him be strong on the interior, finish more often. He's gotten better at that lately, and get to the free throw line like he did in this game, 10 free throw attempts. But him being a 3-point shooter just makes it easier for him to hit those cutters when he has the ball at the top of the arc. It opens up more driving lanes. And that's the thing, is even after he hit shots, centers were still collapsing off of him. Mark Williams, Mason Plumlee were still collapsing off him into the lane. And if you can make those big men pay for doing that, that's a great asset to have on a basketball team. So Nurkic right now is kind of a complete player. He can shoot 3s. He can pass the ball, 6 assists. He rebounds great. Defensively, I thought he was really good tonight. Really underrated once again, and actually made some plays, 2 blocks. And then he had, 3 steals, if I recall correctly? No, he had 3 blocks, 2 steals. According to ESPN, and just filled up the stat sheet and got it done.
Yeah, so, there's 2 things. If that defender has to play out, one, it makes it so, like, if Dame or Ant is driving to the basket, obviously the center is less likely to be standing in the middle of the paint like they normally are. It's a lot harder to pack the paint against the Blazers. But if someone just cuts out of that, like you said, they have to kind of make a decision, because in the past it's been, well, we can live with Nurk shooting 3s, but what we're not going to do is let him get going as a passer to backdoor cutters and getting wide open lanes out of it. And if they start having to play their defense out more, because what he does a lot is the dribble handoff, where he gets the ball and it's like a screen, but it's like he's handing it off to either Anthony or Damian. And if the defenders have to worry about that, and then on top of that, if they start cutting every once in a while too, it's just going to open up the spacing that much better on the floor. And then the other part about cutting is there were several times late in this game where he was standing on the 3-point line, and he's never really been used as a cutter, other than, like, obviously pick and roll passes as the roll man. He's been utilized a lot throughout his career. But in terms of off-ball cutting, if your defender is playing you out more, that's a way where if you could just get a step by them, take them down into the post or under the basket, seal them behind you, get an entry pass closer to the basket. That's something that might make his finishing and scoring around the rim a lot better too. All because he's knocking down threes.
Yeah, absolutely. After today's game, he is 26 for 56, which is good for 46.4% behind the three-point arc. Absolutely phenomenal. And I've speculated in the past, like, he has good enough form and he can pass the ball, like he's not, somebody with brick hands that doesn't have touch, like he can put some touch on his passes and has knocked down mid-range shots more often in the past. Now he doesn't shoot them. But I always thought he could become a three-point shooter, but I didn't know if it would occur, and I didn't know when it would occur. I just felt like one of these seasons he was just going to find his confidence from three and start knocking them down. And that's exactly what happened this year. He was 21 for 49 from three before this game, obviously 5 for 7 tonight. And it was a situation where, he has shown this season that he can knock down threes. It's just, can he do it consistently and on volume? And tonight, I feel like was kind of an exclamation point on that. Like, I have called him a non-shooter on the floor in the past, just not a consistent three-point shooting threat or somebody you could consistently rely on to knock down threes. At this point, I think he's shown enough that I have to change the way I talk about him. Mm-hmm. He's consistently knocked down threes all season long, and he's gotten more and more comfortable, and it doesn't seem like it's slipping off. Now, the next stretch that he goes 0 for 6 or 0 for 7 from 3, people will say, his three-point shooting at the start of the season was a fluke. But we've seen everybody go through slumps. We've seen Dame go through slumps. We've seen Anthony Simons go through slumps. So there's going to be a stretch here or there where he struggles to shoot threes. But
there was a spot where it dipped from like 50% down to 37, I think, at one point. Yeah. And now he's gotten it back up after last.
But he didn't lose his confidence.
Yeah.
The form is, he shoots pretty much the same way every time. Like, he's on balance, great base, great rhythm, good follow through, good flick of the wrist. Like, he has, that's the thing is, when it comes to shooting shots, you want a form that's repeatable. You shoot the same way every time, should have the same result every time. And, we know he's put in work on this over previous off seasons. It's just awesome to see the culmination of that. Tonight where I'm begging him to shoot threes and he has a sliver of space and I just want him to pull it. Now, I think a key to his efficiency is he's just shooting open ones. But he's going to get open ones as a big man, as a throwback center, quote unquote, which people like to call him. He's going to get open threes, playing next to Dame, next to Ant, next to Jeremy Grant. He doesn't have to shoot contested ones. Just as long as he can knock down the open ones, okay, well, you make that big man pay for packing the paint, for worrying about Dame, worrying about Ant. So, and if he can, I think the next evolution for him now, Eric, is to figure out how to consistently attack closeouts. Yep. And get to the rim off that. And then, if he attacks a closeout, beats a guy, and draws a second defender, we know he can pass the ball. He makes those type of passes out of short rolls all the time, and a lot of those passes are the same. Like, he could be a guy that is making plays off the dribble because he's getting ran off the three-point line. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see that. So, I don't think we've seen peak Yusuf Nurkic offensively yet. His finishing has gotten better the past couple of years. His passing, is still there. It's not as heavily utilized as it maybe was in the past, but 6 assists tonight. He's become a better ball handler, and this shooting opens up more for him, so it'll be interesting to see just kind of where his offensive game goes. But going into this game, he is having the most efficient year of his career. His true shooting percentage was almost 61%, which is above average. Like, he's an efficient player. People love to knock him for his finishing, and he's not the best finisher whatsoever, but he makes up for it by not being a terrible free throw shooter. He's right around 70%. That's okay. Would like for it to be better, but that's okay. But then also when you knock down threes like this, like, it's just crazy efficiency if you're getting 40% three-point shooting from your starting center. Mm-hmm. So, the finishing, as I said, has been better lately. Maybe it'll hopefully continue to improve. Had a couple nice finishes in this game and then got to the free throw line a bunch. So it's just awesome to see, especially after all the hate that he's been given from certain fans, from a part of this fan base. It's just awesome to see that not faze him. He's playing good defense lately, playing really good positionally on that end of the floor, and then knocking down the threes. I love it, man. This dude is awesome. Glad he's our starting center, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, for those, people are going to cheat, but Miles Turner is considered a good three-point shooter as a center, right? Like a stretch big.
Yeah.
Chat, guess what his career three-point percentage is? Do you know it, Tori?
I'm pretty sure it's like, I don't want to say it, but I'll give chat a second to answer it. Don't cheat, chat. Just based off his reputation, chat, what would you guess? And then we'll see how close chat is. I see it like 36, 34.5. We got a 31, a 38%, 33, 35, 35, 32, 34. So kind of right around 34, 35%.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's lower than that. If I had to guess, 33.4%.
Well, last year he shot 33.3. This year he's at 41.3%, so it's helped this number a little bit. But yeah, career 35.4% three-point shooter. So even if Nurk isn't a 40% shooter, even if he's mid-30s, that's still, in my opinion, very helpful as a big man to be able to stretch the floor like that, especially if he's shooting 2 or 3 a game.
Yep. The thing is, Turner shoots 4 a game, but I think Nurkic can shoot 4 a game. I have no problem with Nurkic shooting 4 threes a game right now. I have no problem with that because I think he's as capable of a three-point shooter as maybe a Miles Turner is. He's probably not going to do Miles Turner can knock down a step back occasionally and that sort of thing. Nurkic isn't really a guy off the dribble, but he has opportunity. He has an opportunity to shoot 4 wide-open catch-and-shoot threes a game, given how teams play him. And if teams stop giving that up, then that'll just make things easier on other guys. So at this point, I want Nurkic to be even more aggressive shooting the 3-ball, and he was aggressive tonight. Every time he's open on a catch-and-shoot shot behind the 3-point arc, he should be launching it. But he was super unselfish tonight. Like, even though he shot 5 threes, or 7 threes in this game, he was super unselfish. He started off this game where he could have shot open threes, and he was trying to hit teammates and had a couple turnovers from it. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, people are going to criticize him for these turnovers, and these aren't good turnovers. But I thought it was worse. Like, the dude's just tried to be too unselfish. The dude should just be shooting a 3. Because he's knocked down 3s this year. He should just be letting it fly, But, I respect a guy trying to be unselfish and, get teammates involved and hit cutters and that sort of thing. He needs to be a little better making reads sometimes on those sort of plays. But, he's an unselfish player. He's not hunting his stats or anything like that. I've always thought this dude does a lot of the little things that don't get appreciated. And then just isn't a guy who cares about his points or his scoring. He's just going to go out there and battle. He's going to play defense. He's going to rebound the hell out of the ball. And he's going to do what it takes to win you basketball games. So, it's just kind of funny how I want him to be more selfish. Because a couple of those turnovers I thought he should have shot 3s on at the start of this game. So it'll be interesting to see just how high his volume gets shooting 3s, but you look at the way like Jonas Valanciunas evolved into a guy who recently had a 7 for 10 game shooting 3s and 37 points. You see how Brook Lopez has evolved, playing for Milwaukee, 3-and-D center. He didn't shoot 3s earlier in his career. You look at how Marc Gasol evolved. You look at how all these big men evolved into 3-point shooters, and Nurkic is right along that arc. So I would expect it to become even more of an asset for this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to, let me think, a couple of donos / member messages. Shout out to Michael V, member for a month, says Yusuf Nurkic and Weremy, the new Splash Bros. Yeah, Jeremy Grant, 4 for 6 from 3, Nurkic 5 for 7. They combined 9 for 13 from 3, Eric.
What did Grant finish with? 32 or something?
32 points, Nurkic 28. That's 60 points from your power forward and center.
Yeah, we'll take that every time, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Dame 1 for 10 from 3. It's like Yusuf Nurkic stole Dame's 3-point shooting ability. But we'll talk about Dame in a second because there's some nice things I want to say about his game tonight despite his poor shooting night. Shout out to Michael V with the $2 dono. Thank you, Michael, for the dono and being a channel member. Says, Wayne with bad efficiency, but led the team in plus minus. And I think there's a reason for that, and I will get to that in a second. Thank you, Michael, for the $2 dono. And then shout out Gray Hughes Investigates with the $20 dono. Says, all right, chat, there are 250 people watching. Let's get them more super chats. Tip them for their hard work. Bird who? Question mark. Go Nurk. LOL. Thank you, Gray, for the $20 dono. Appreciate your support as always, and I appreciate you trying to rally the troops there. Thank you for your support, Gray. Let's talk Dame, who didn't have the best shooting night tonight. But, Eric, what'd you think about his defense?
His defense, it was great. I felt like, especially in the first half, which is funny to say because we give up 67 points and play atrocious defense. But
we'll get to that.
I don't think I didn't really see many examples of it being Dame or Ant's fault. It's just, it was funny because a lot of the breakdowns happening, especially in the first half of this game, were Grant and Hart, and they came in here to, fix those problems, not contribute to them.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
we got this backcourt that can never play good defense because they're both offensive players who never even try on the defensive end. I don't know. Dame's quietly been playing very, very good defense, and not many people have been noticing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is given his reputation and given what people say about him, and we've seen him for a decade. Obviously, he's been here a long time to break the all-time scorer record. It's like if he has a season where he plays good defense, will that get appreciated, or will people just kind of fall back on the narrative that they've always had about him? Like, for how long does he have to play good defense in order to change that narrative? And or how good does he have to play on the defensive end to change that narrative? Because I thought in the first half, honestly, for this entire game, he was the best defender on the floor tonight for the Portland Trail Blazers. Mm-hmm. There was multiple times where I saw him communicating to other guys where to be. In the second half, I saw that multiple times. He was in the right position. He's much more locked in off the ball than he has been in the past. He's not making a bunch of off-ball mistakes, whereas somebody like Josh Hart lately has, unfortunately. And he's supposed to be the one who's not making those mistakes. Unfortunately, it's the forwards. But Dame, there's multiple times I thought he got through screens really well, which has always been something that he's struggled with in his career. And then off the ball, just very, very solid. Had a couple good contests. Had 2 blocks in this game. One of them on the taller Gordon Hayward, who tried to drive and shoot a mid-range pull-up over him. Dame, I thought, this was one of the best defensive games I've ever seen him play. I can't remember. There's probably a mistake or two he made, but if we're sitting here talking about like, oh yeah, I think there was a mistake in this game that he made defensively, that's a really good thing. Because of the past, it's been, oh man, he got cooked tonight, or he was really bad tonight. And he's been struggling shooting the ball lately. He was 1 for 10 from 3 tonight. He did sprain his shooting wrist recently, and I think that might be bugging him. So 4 days off, or 3 days off in a game, then 2 days off in a game, should do him some good. But that's the thing is, when he's not making shots, how does he help the team? He had 9 assists tonight, played great defensively, and even when he goes 5 for 18, he's still drawing a ton of attention, and it's going to be easier on other guys. They're going to have more space because Dame's gravity is so immense on the offensive end. And that's why he can have a bad game like tonight, but the team still plays much better with him in the game. But part of that is he's gotten better at some of the other things. Obviously playmaking and distributing compared to earlier in his career. And then the defensive end, I think he has been, I don't know if I'd label it as a positive this year, but it hasn't been a negative, which is a good thing. And defensively, lately especially, I think he's been impressive.
I mean, in theory, we should just have, if you can get neutral defense out of Dame and Ant, the defense should be good. So there's no excuse if those guys are not being a negative on that end. I know it's still questionable throughout the season if they have been or not. But I'm saying, if you could just say they'll give you neutral defense, I think there's no reason why this team shouldn't be good at defense. And I've said this many times before. I want Dame to get like challenged more on the defensive end. I feel like there's been times in the last couple games where he has played good defense, because I also felt like he played pretty good defense against Denver, where he's like took it upon himself, and you can see that look in his eyes, like, I'm gonna stop this player, or I want to take Jamal Murray this possession, or I want to take LaMelo Ball this possession, and that kind of attitude, I think Dame would thrive if you give him tougher defensive assignments and allow, like we've talked about all year as well, our help defenders to do their job off ball. But yeah, so especially on nights when he's struggling or we don't really need him offensively, I'd love to see them give him a little bit more responsibility on that end and see what he does with it.
Yep, absolutely. Especially with the way he was getting through screens today, man. Having Jeremy Grant behind him will help him. Especially with the defense that hasn't been as bad lately as people think. Like, it was the 17th ranked defense going into that Denver game. Denver's a really good team. Dropped 120 on them in Denver. But I think this team has just kind of been inconsistent lately. Had some good moments, had some rough moments, but Dame has been better defensively. The thing is our forwards can play better defensively, and if they do, I think Dame and even Ant, who I don't think has been as bad as people say he's been, will, that team still has potential defensively, and I still believe that team can be at least average defensively, and with the offensive weapons they have, and with how wide open the West is, then you got a chance to make a run. Maybe you got to add a couple more defensive pieces off the bench. Who knows? But that's a question for Joe Cronin to answer. Obviously, we've been missing one of our defensive pieces off the bench, and who knows when he'll play, because that's a whole nother thing. We talked about that earlier today on our second show on Blazers Uprise Live, link in description. But yeah, shout out to Dame, man. Love the defense that he's been playing. Just did a really good job of. Here's the thing when you're not necessarily the best defender too, is just knowing where your help is. And there's multiple times he had Nurkic helping him, and he was funneling the ball handler towards where Nurkic was, and doing a good job kind of funneling guys towards the help. And Nurkic, I don't know if Nurkic was communicating where he was, but that's a huge thing on the defensive end as a rim protector, as a center, is communicating, telling the guy defending the ball where your help is. Saying, I'm help, or help baseline, or help middle. Help is middle. Something like that, like communicating like that is good. So obviously we can't tell who's doing that on the court. We can't hear these guys, unfortunately, but it seems like Nurkic and Dame were pretty much on the same page. Dame did a good job funneling guys towards Nurk. Nurk played good help defense, and there were some good defensive possessions that way. It was sloppy in the first half, mostly due to the forwards, but the second half, what'd you think of this team in the second half, man? Because they started playing with a different level of energy, it felt like, on the defensive end.
Yeah, for sure. They were flying around, hustling a lot more. I feel like at the beginning of the first or second half, they were playing a zone, and it was leading to a lot of open shots, but they kind of settled into it. And Charlotte, fortunately, went to ice cold. They were still getting some pretty good looks at the beginning of the third quarter, but as the game went on, I think the main difference in defense between the first half and the second half was, one, they cut down on the turnovers in the second half, and at least the live ball ones. That was a huge problem, at least in the first quarter, where they had, I think, 8 turnovers in one quarter. And Charlotte, we know, is a transition team. And the first half, we just gave them way too many opportunities. It's not even just like fast break lay-ins or points. It's more just they get out and push the ball up the court so quickly that you don't have a chance to set your defense, and then just one person is guarding the wrong person or ran to the wrong spot, and all of a sudden someone's wide open. So I thought in the second half, it wasn't necessarily that their base defense was that much better. I just felt like they did a much better job of getting back and getting into their defensive sets before Charlotte could take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I'll say this, there was a few shots that Charlotte made in the first half that you don't even complain about defensively. Mm-hmm. Kelly Oubre had some tough looks that went in. Also, Mason Plumlee with his left-handed jump shot made 2 jumpers and then was 4 from 5 from the free throw line. Tough. you'll live with that for the most part. So, there's some shots that Charlotte hit that wasn't necessarily bad defense whatsoever. Oubre with that really impressive, backwards lay-in he had over Nurkic. There's possessions, there's games where teams make some tough shots. It's always hard to kind of, compare that to just a game with bad defense, but you just got to look at the quality of shots they're getting. Definitely gave up some open looks in that first half, and even in that second half that they didn't make as many of. But Charlotte's not a bad offensive team when healthy. The problem is they haven't been healthy all year. They haven't had Gordon Hayward all year. They haven't had LaMelo Ball all year. LaMelo Ball is obviously their star, their main playmaker, their main scorer. So with those two guys, you got PJ Washington, who's a phenomenal offensive player. He was 4 for 5 from 3 today. And then Kelly Oubre off the bench. It's not a bad offensive team. On the season, their offensive stats aren't good because they've been missing those two guys that I named, and they don't have the depth to replace them. But it's a team that doesn't play defense. That's why Blazers were able to score 30, 31, and 40 points first, second, and third quarters.
We played that video of Steve Clifford a couple weeks ago about him going off on his team about not even trying on defense. So yeah. So overall, they shoot 40% from the field, 33% from three. I think you'll probably live with that. They were at 50 on both, I think, at halftime. Yeah,
I'm just happy that the Blazers stepped up. They gave up 46 points in the second quarter in what was generally a fast-paced game because Charlotte squeezed up the tempo. I had a feeling they were going to step up going into the second half. I was hanging out with a few people watching this game. Connor, Brady, Smog was in there. Aeromancer was in there. Saw Ish in there. But I said coming out of the halftime break, I said, watch, this team's going to be up in 3 minutes. And they were down 7, I believe, at the time. They were down 6, actually, 67-61. I just had a feeling this team's going to ratchet up the intensity defensively coming out of this halftime break, and they're actually going to have a decent defensive half. That was just kind of my gut feeling going into things, and within 2 minutes, 45 seconds, they turned a 6-point deficit into a 2-point lead, and there wasn't really any looking back from there. So, first half wasn't good. Our forwards weren't good, but our backcourt, I thought, defensively was absolutely fine. Dame and Ant. So I thought Hart was a little bit more locked in and very energetic in that second half, played his ass off, and then Jeremy Grant was better as well, and that was the big reason because I think our guards and Nurk were doing a good job defensively. And then our bench didn't screw around and give up a lead either, which helped.
Yeah, so are you concerned, though, that coming off a 3-game losing streak, that they didn't show that kind of effort defensively in the first half?
I wouldn't say they in general. I thought Nurkic, Dame, and Ant were fine in that regard. Mm-hmm. I thought Hart's been a little bit prone to falling asleep off the ball, and I don't think that's necessarily an effort thing. I think that's just kind of a focus thing, and he seemed more focused. Jeremy Grant had some lazy moments in the first half especially. There was a play he didn't get a hand up and whatnot. So it wasn't anything concerning to me. It wasn't, and I thought Charlotte made a higher percentage of shots. Sometimes, that happens. So it's not something that worries me because there was multiple guys I thought that had the right level of intensity, right level of effort this entire game. There was a couple guys where that was lacking. The problem is with a guy like Drew Eubanks off the bench, we've talked about it. His effort in terms of trying to block shots sometimes is to his detriment. So nothing that worries me. Are you worried? Are you here? Are you here?
Well, I kind of get worried about teams that seemingly think they can flip the switch at any point. And so I do still get that sense from this team at times. Even if they're not making mistakes necessarily, you could just tell there was a different level of focus and intensity in the second half. And for some reason, like I said, coming off a 3-game losing streak, you're finally back at home. You have a huge night. I mean, that could have, led to some of the nervousness of the first half is not wanting to screw up Dame's night, But the whole thing is, I don't know. I think like if you want to be a good team, you have to have that focus and not once you realize like, oh crap, we're in a dogfight. We thought we were going to win this game easily, and now we have to like turn it on. I just wish they would turn it on from the beginning sometimes and not mess around.
Yeah, well, I'll say this too. A lot of times it was getting mixed up in transition. Charlotte got out and ran, had 14 fast break points in the first half, if I recall correctly. And that was due in part to Blazer turnovers, and it was more so just kind of getting mixed up. Also, there was a couple plays where loose balls went their way. One, I think, was to Mark Williams on a fast break. Maybe it was Mark Williams, I forget who it was, but there was one on a fast break that just kind of like bounces around and luckily goes to a Charlotte Hornet for a lay-in. Gordon Hayward had a bank shot in that first quarter, just a ball kind of pinballs off a rebound and goes to him. So, you know, I don't necessarily just look at it as you give up 67 points, obviously not good defensively, but I also thought there was some breaks and just some tough shots that Charlotte hit as well. So kind of a mixed bag. Hart and Grant need to be better. No complaints from the other three starters. Our bench unit, we've talked about it. I thought Keon had some good defensive minutes in the first half. I thought Trendon Watford, Drew Eubanks, still just very bleh to me on both sides of the court. And yeah, so it's not a collective thing, but Grant and Hart need to be the guys that help us on that end, not guys that hurt us, and they were guys that hurt us, I thought, in the first half.
Yeah, I guess I'm sick of hearing the post-game press conference from Chauncey saying we just didn't match their intensity or whatever. Like, I felt like that was going to be the thing again tonight if we ended up losing this game. It's like, oh, they just came out and outworked us and stuff. And I kind of question, or I get frustrated at times that that's even an issue when they're trying to establish themselves and they're not really doing the greatest job, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think this team closes out too short sometimes. And I don't know if that's an effort issue to you or what, but like this team, I thought there was multiple threes in the first half. I'm kind of watching back plays too as we speak. Like there was 2 PJ Washington threes where we just close out short for no reason.
Well, yeah, I have a picture of one of them. I'll put it in play 2 for you.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that in a second. But I just think there's times where this team just closes out way too short or doesn't close out well enough. Yeah, chat. What do you think?
Always like why isn't that improving? Is my problem.
It's just inconsistent. It's just inconsistent. It's not even necessarily about. I don't know. It's just about finding consistency there. I mean, as I'm watching back these plays, there's 2 PJ Washington threes where we close out kind of short. There's 2 Mason Plumlee left hand jumpers. I mean, I'm like halfway through the first quarter.
To design that. Yeah, like, where you want Plumlee shooting.
Yeah, you will live with Plumlee shooting because that dude is shooting with a different hand than he shot with in Portland. And it looks better, actually, but it still looks bad.
I just put one picture in there, and it's the only picture I have for that play, but like it just is an example of what you mean by a short closeout.
Yeah. I can pull that up right now as we kind of speak on this. What's chat saying about this, and also keep giving your take.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, this isn't. I'm not trying to like argue with you or anything, but I feel like, ever since the beginning of the season, our defense hasn't been great, right? And I feel like a lot of times you're just saying that you think it's been fine. They're just hitting shots or,
not necessarily fine. I just think it's more of a mixed bag because we tell people not to like speak in generalities or kind of like gloss over things with one brush, right? Like it's generally more of a mixed bag than people think because people will make super definitive statements when maybe it's kind of more in the middle. And that's basically what I do, it's just like that's why I don't like talking about like, oh well, the effort was just bad. I don't like talking about it like that because normally every game there's players giving poor effort, there's players giving good effort, but like not every defensive mistake is an effort issue. So I'm kind of trying to like explain how it's not. I don't think it's just effort issues on defense or anything.
Yeah.
So that's how I approach it. And that's why it's always good to go back and look at shots after a game. But yeah, here we go with play number 2.
It's just a picture. No,
It's
that
just a
wasn't even.
picture.
No,
It's
and
not
if I
even
was
that.
good,
What were you saying?
I didn't even know if I was gonna have you do it. But since you were talking about
Yeah,
it,
and this is one of the plays I was talking about too. Yeah. So this was one of the just short closeouts from Jeremy Grant. He didn't even get a hand up really, but at this point, even if you get a hand up, is it going to make a difference? You're just too far away.
Well, this particular play, Jeremy Grant was like pretty much there by the time he caught the ball, and then he just doesn't put a hand up, which is, I mean, yeah, PJ Washington is having the greatest shooting year, but he's a guy who you definitely have to close out on the 3-point line. And it's just frustrating that, he stands there. PJ Washington has time to catch the ball, get into his shot, and is shooting it before Grant even puts his hand up. And just that kind of stuff, I feel like defensive possessions are wasted when we play good defense for a while, and then just one person doesn't do their job or loses focus, and something like this happens.
Yeah, I don't know what the game plan was on him, but there was a shot that he hit, a 3-point shot right after this, where it was Hart getting through a screen. And Hart was there on the catch, but actually took a step backward when PJ Washington caught it. It's like they were more concerned about him as a driver than a 3-point shooter.
Yeah, and also, Hart, he did kind of he recovered really well, but he's got to get around that screen a little better. That was frustrating too, because PJ Washington gets 6 quick points when we have a 6-point lead. We got off to a decent start again, and then all of a sudden they're cashing threes left and right, and it was because we're just one step slow all the time.
Yeah. So that's a good play to kind of showcase what I was talking about. You saw in I think it was a practice clip. Did you end up watching the trail episode that I was telling you about the other day?
I saw the clip you were talking about, but I haven't seen the whole episode.
Did you see the clip where they were talking to Shaedon Sharpe in practice, and they were talking about his closeout? And I think it was Roy Rogers that was talking to him. Chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically they were telling him he's closing out too short. Everybody in the league is a shooter. You got to close out to the chest. Like, you got to be in their chest. You can't close out short because, guys will make you pay. And that clip resonated with me tonight with some of their closeouts where it's like, man, we're kind of doing it too much. And I think that's a problem a lot of times is guys that just close out too short. And when you're closing out short, it's because you're worried about getting beat off the dribble. A lot of times it's hard to find the exact spot to close out to where you can bother the 3, force a miss while also not getting beat off the dribble. If you close out too hard, you're getting beat off the dribble, or it's a pump fake and relocate, one dribble to the side and shooting that 3, or it's, something downhill. If you close out too short, it's an open 3. So that's something that this team and certain guys on this team have to figure out and do a better job of, because a lot of times they close out too short so they don't get beat off the dribble, but you're giving up 3s. And a lot of that is knowing who you're closing out on. If you're closing out on Zion Williamson, you're obviously going to close out shorter than if you're closing out on Stephen Curry. So some of it is game plan and just knowing your assignments, knowing your opponents. And then, but there's times where you have legitimate 3-point shooting threats and we're closing out short. And a guy like PJ Washington, you got to close out even further on because he's taller. If it's, a 6-foot guard, it's a little easier to close out short on them. And usually those guys are quicker, so you're more worried about them beating you off the dribble too. On bigger guys, you got to close the gap more. PJ Washington, I don't trust him much as a ball handler, but he can attack a closeout. But I think a lot of the mistakes that plague this team at times are nuance or just, not doing things the right way, not necessarily an effort issue.
Yeah, but why is it continually a problem, though?
Why is what continually a problem?
Like the closeout thing. Is it just, do you think it just gets better with reps? Or, should it be much better at this point?
I mean, closeouts are tough in the NBA. I don't know if it's not knowing your personnel, because that's the thing. When you see it happen twice in a row on a guy like PJ Washington, what was he shooting from 3 going into this game?
Only 32%.
Yeah, so, I don't know if the coaching staff said, hey, yeah, this guy's a 32%er, but he can get to the rim off the dribble. And if you tell your team that, then they're probably going to close out short because they're thinking of him as a driving threat, not as much of a three-point shooting threat. So then they close out short, and then he knocks down threes, and it's all, well, why isn't the closeouts getting better? But they're just doing what they were told, So that's the thing is, I don't know. And if you just tell him he's a 32% shooter, they're not going to worry about that as much as they probably should. He's a better three-point shooter than that. So that's the thing is, like PJ Washington last year shot 36.5% from three. Year before, 38% from three. Year before, 37% from three. So he's just been in a shooting slump this year. Doesn't mean you close out short. Doesn't mean you treat him like somebody who shoots 32% for their career. Like Justice Winslow, I think, might have a... Justice Winslow is 31% on the year, but PJ Washington is a much better three-point shooter than him, So
right.
That it could be a mistake with game planning. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, to me, see, I don't know. There's a difference between not getting a hand up and taking a step back like Hart did on the next play. But, like, I don't know. To me, it seems like we're in a situation where, like, I don't know. It does seem like the teams that have good defense, it's not necessarily because they're perfect on closeouts. Like you said, it's really hard. But it just seems like their players give so much effort and are constantly moving, constantly not giving up on plays, just flying around. It's okay if you make a mistake as long as you hustle to get back into play and show some effort. And so I think that's why, like, the effort thing and the coaching becomes a question mark when you see stuff like that where, a person's not putting their hand up and or falling asleep off ball, losing their guy. It's not necessarily on a cut. It's a lot of times you turn your head and then the shooter just moves a couple spots over to the side. So when you turn around, you have to locate him. He's not where you thought he would be. And that split second causes you to be late on the closeout. So like a lot of that stuff to me are things that I'm kind of concerned aren't improving throughout the course of the season. And hopefully the coaching staff can find a way to correct that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't get effort issue from the first half defensively. Like, I thought there was multiple plays where the effort was fine, or you gave up the shot you wanted, or this team just got mixed up in transition or off an offensive board. So that's kind of my conclusion on it. But I think in the second half their effort was better, but I think they played their ass off in the second half, man. Like, they come out of halftime with a purpose, and I don't know how much of it was like, we can't lose this game for Dame. We can't lose this game for Dame with his ceremony after. Like, we gotta take care of business, and there was maybe a little extra adrenaline with, that being on the line or what. But it seemed like they really came out with a purpose in the second half. Effort-wise, I don't think it was bad in the first half. Just as I kind of go through the plays, I don't think it was necessarily much of an effort. There's definitely possessions where, you got to get a hand up, you got to close out better, you got to do that sort of thing. But every game you expect a few of those. You just don't want many. Overall, it wasn't really a complaint of mine.
So you did or you didn't think they had that same purpose in the first half?
I thought they came out with more of a purpose in the second half. I don't think the effort was bad in the first half. I don't think it was good. I think it was okay. In the second half, I thought the effort was great.
But this is my problem is, it's one thing if, say you're, I don't know, a good defense, like the Warriors or the Bucks or something who have had a good defense, and then maybe they go through a stretch where they're like in the 20s, right? Like a month stretch, and their defense is 25th rating or something, and you're like, oh man, should we be concerned? And it's probably no to that answer, because they've shown and proven time in and time out that those defenses can ramp it up, and when they are focused and do have purpose, they are elite defenses. But this Blazer team, I mean, yeah, they've had games or, weak stretches where they've had a good defense earlier in the season. They win the first 4 games. They're sixth in defensive rating. Everyone's feeling good about themselves. To me, it is frustrating, and I do think you can question the effort and the purpose when you're constantly towards the back half of the ratings and defense, and you still come out in a game and don't show that same purpose that you obviously showed you were capable of the second half. To me, coming off a 3-game losing streak, that is kind of troubling and does lead me to believe that there is an effort problem there.
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta be honest. I don't know. I feel like too often effort is what gets blamed if it's a bad defensive half, or if there's a lot of points given up in the first half. Like, automatically it's just effort with kind of a broad stroke. I don't know. As I rewatched a lot of this first half, I can't really say that. Like, I don't think their effort was bad. And I don't want to just sit here every time they give up, 65 points in the first half and just sit here and say, yeah, it's bad effort, it's bad effort, it's bad effort.
But why did they come out with that purpose then if it wasn't an effort issue?
I mean, like, no team plays at their peak level of effort and purpose for an entire game, like every game. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, there is more on the line. With, I don't know. This team kind of flew around. But that's the thing, is a lot of times you'll see this team try and fly around and give effort, and they'll end up out of position. Like, they'll overhelp, or they'll, both rotate out to one guy and then the other shooter is open, and their energy, they're playing hard, they're playing with energy, but it's not the right thing, or it's not focused, and they're making mistakes because they're trying too hard almost, or they're, trying to cover too much ground and be too much of a help. Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I just think it's more nuanced in the end than just bad effort versus good effort.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, if you're a terrible defensive team, like the Blazers have been, I don't like it. It seems more like an excuse.
But they haven't been terrible the last 10, 11 games. They've been near average.
Yeah, I guess.
Just statistically. Maybe it's easier schedule, but
yeah.
I don't know. Chat, what's your thoughts on our debate? I'm always curious to see what you say. Shout out Blazer Fan Abby, or Fanaby. I never know which one to say, for becoming a starter level member. Thank you, Blazer Fanaby. But yeah, chat, let me know what you guys think on this debate. And we'll kind of move on here with this coverage. But it's always fun to debate Eric and then see who you guys agree with, see what you guys think. Kenneth says they don't know how to close out. They close out to the body instead of the hand. A lot of times you just want to close out to the body and get a hand up. Because if you're not close to their body and you have a hand up, that doesn't bother NBA shooters. Like, you got to be like almost in their space. And that's what gets tough when, you don't want to undercut a shooter. That's a flagrant. That's what's tough about NBA defense. These shooters are the best in the world. So you do want to get to their body and get a hand up so you're in their space. That'll bother a shooter more than if you're not close to them and trying to get a hand up. So I don't think closing out to the body like that is a bad thing. So is Justice out for some time? Justice is out for 2 weeks.
At least.
So, there's a chance Nas is back before him. Because when's Nas' 6 weeks up?
It's like middle of January. It's like 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, so there's a chance that Nas is back before him.
Yeah, so there was... I forgot who tweeted this. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to give him credit, but someone showed a picture of Nas shooting before the game and said that it didn't look like he was clear to do jumping yet. So I'd guess it's still it's going to be more than 3 weeks. It's probably going to be at least a month or longer until he's ready to play.
Yep. New York Blazer fan says, do you think the effort has to do with the amount of minutes our starters are playing? I think at times that might be part of it, because these guys are playing heavy minutes. And I think the worst this effort has been the end of November, when we had played 29 games in 16 days and the starters were playing heavy minutes. They had that OT game in New York where like Winslow played 46 minutes and whatnot. So I think time off could help this team, and having a bench that Chauncey's comfortable with, so he doesn't play Dame or Jeremy Grant 38, 39 minutes. Instead, maybe he plays him 34, 35. I know that might not seem like a big difference to people, but it's a little easier to give effort when you don't have to play super extended periods of time. If you're getting subbed out 7 to 8 minutes in a game compared to, 10 to 11, it's not much, but it's a little easier to give max effort during that entire stretch than, playing those extra few minutes. So, I think that is potentially part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to see the starters' minutes down a little bit. You're going to have to start playing better, or worse, I guess, if you're getting blown out. But, games like tonight, you play better in the first half. You score, 61 in the first, 63 in the second half. So, that should be enough if you're playing good defense to have a sizable lead at halftime, not a 6-point deficit. You come out, put them away in the third quarter, and maybe you get the starters to rest in the fourth quarter. But unfortunately, that's just not going to be the case very much with a team like the Blazers, who are still trying to figure things out.
Yep, absolutely. Ty the Great says lapses of focus. Let's see. I'm just kind of reading off comments here. Eric Olson says, I think it's hard to tell when effort and rawness can look alike. It's as I've said multiple times before, defense is complicated. That's why I like kind of trying to break things down play by play and not brush over things. At times you can when it's dominantly one thing, where, like last year on the road, like there were so many effort issues. You could just sit there and point at the effort, because the effort most of the time was terrible. When it's kind of a mixed bag, I like to try and break things down play by play, or, provide that nuance. Even though it takes time to explain, and we could spend, 2 hours here debating it, me and Eric can. We still like to. We don't like to just brush over stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoy that part of post-game shows. But what else from this game, Eric, impressed you, disappointed you, player-wise, team-wise, in general? What do you think? 124 points offense was good, obviously.
The turnovers at times are still troubling. That was one thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about Dame, is he had 5 turnovers, I think, including just some really bad ones. He had one where all he had to do was dump it off to Ant in the corner, who was wide open, and he gets the ball stolen.
Just gotta be comfortable throwing a bounce pass there if the defender's there, because he's not getting to a bounce pass there.
Yep. And then he threw at least one pass to Nurk's feet on the roll, which he's never going to be able to catch very easily. I don't know what it is this year, but it seems like Dame has improved immensely, and he's really made that a focus on playmaking and getting others involved. They had that funny clip after he threw that lob to Drew, because Dame was mic'd up for this game, where he was telling Drew on the bench that he was going to throw it to him every time because he scores plenty of points and he wanted to give him some or something like that. So I feel like he's trying to facilitate a lot, even though he does still shoot a lot. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's not even his turnovers aren't because he's trying to facilitate. He just every once in a while just throws a terrible pass. Nurkic does the same thing, where the back door just isn't there, man. And you're throwing that pass, or you're throwing a pass right at a defender, and until that gets cleaned up, it's going to be really hard to get your defense set up and all that. So I still think turnovers are an issue, even though we cleaned those up in the second half for the most part. Just like to see those cut down a little bit.
Yeah, so we had let me look here. We had 8 turnovers in the first quarter, 7 the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So the rest of the game was fine, mostly the first quarter. And Charlotte being a team that likes to run, a lot of times that'll result in Charlotte buckets. Like the very first bucket of the game for Charlotte was Nurkic throwing that bad outlet pass. But at first, when I saw that play, it's like, Nurkic, what the hell was that outlet pass? As I watch it back, Nurkic thought Hart was going to run up the sideline, and Hart stopped and was basically coming back to the ball, waiting for the pass. So Nurkic thought he was running, Hart stopped, so overthrew him. And it was right to a Charlotte Hornets player, and then he hit LaMelo Ball, who was open because we were running out in transition, so we weren't ready to match up, we just weren't there. And then LaMelo Ball hit the three. So, that sloppiness that leads to a bucket. But, I mean, you're going to have some times where it's just different pages. Hart stops when Nurkic thinks he's going to keep running. And you'll see that even in the NFL, where a receiver will stop and the QB thinks he's going to keep running. And, it's hard to even blame either of them for that, because it's not necessarily the wrong thing to expect or to do. It's just a different page, and it leads to a turnover. So, that type of stuff is unfortunate. Yeah, this team throws into hands too much, is what it is. I think this team needs to get better at passing the ball a dribble earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And during that Trello episode, I think there was a practice clip talking about, it was Scott Brooks. And there was a quote from him in practice. It was actually a very insightful episode. And he was basically telling the guys to not over dribble into the paint. To if the shot wasn't there, get the ball out earlier than they were. And I think too often this team will drive into the paint and the open kick-out pass will be there, but they'll take one extra dribble, get themselves covered, just smothered by the defense, and then try and make that pass out, and at that point it's getting deflected because they drove deep enough into the defense. They just got multiple defenders on them. They don't have that passing opportunity anymore. Whereas if they made a dribble earlier, the passing window was open. They had a lane to get the shooter in the corner or whatever the ball. So I think that's a problem that plagues this team too much. Second turnover of the game, Anthony Simons had a play where he drove to the left and had the pass open in the corner, but waited until he was basically under the basket to try and kick it out, and Plumlee was on him. So that's, a play that if you guys want to go look at, NBA.com box scores have all sorts of plays.
Well, too, there was a play in, I don't know if it was at the end of the first half. I think it was the end of the first half. So it didn't count as a turnover because Dame shot it, but he goes too early because he's expecting the defense to collapse, and he did what you were just saying. He took one too many dribbles when he could have just gone up and laid it in, thinking he was going to pass it out, and then when he realized that there was no passing lanes, he had to throw something up at the backboard. So that counts as a missed shot. Probably should have been a turnover. But that could be another example of that, even though it didn't count as a turnover in the box score.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's just making reads earlier, and sometimes it's you can tell that they're making the right reads. It's just they're trying to see if they can get to the rim, and then they're thinking of that as just a secondary option, where that just comes down to you got to know if you can get to the rim or not, so that if you can make that pass early enough, or should make that pass early enough. But with this team's emphasis at getting downhill to the rim, it's not really a surprise to see. But I think it's been better at times. When the team's super stagnant, they're not really doing that. The problem is I don't know if it's something with Dame and Ant where it's almost like they have to know for sure who they're passing to, which generally you need to know who you're passing to, but it's almost like they take that extra time to see who it is. And if it's Justice Winslow, they're going all the way to the rim and they're not kicking that out. Whereas if it's Jeremy Grant, they are. That's where it helps to just know that you have a capable three-point shooter out there, so that okay, I can make this pass into somebody that is a threat there. That's why it's nice having all five guys in the starting lineup be a shooter, despite Josh Hart missing some threes today. That's why it's nice to have all shooters on the floor. With the bench unit, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. The third turnover of this game was that pass where Dame drove and then tried to make a kick-out pass to Josh Hart, and Nurkic was rolling there, and he basically almost hit Nurkic in the face. It wasn't anyone's fault. It was just like bad timing. And it was the play where the ball went up in the air and then Josh tried to catch it with one hand and it went out of bounds. You know what play I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, like that is just kind of unfortunate. There was the Nurkic had a traveling call on him.
I don't know why he didn't just go right to the basket there.
Well, you know what it was? Is the play before he hit Watford with a dump-off pass, and he was expecting Keon to cut.
Yeah.
But the defender didn't come all the way over,
right.
and Keon didn't cut, and then he was stuck and he traveled.
Yeah.
So that was another turnover. Like I said, like Nurkic was being unselfish in this game. He was looking to pass instead of just going up, and it was like, next play he's probably going straight up with that. So, then there was a questionable double dribble on Dame. Yeah, just some iffy stuff. Michael Baldino says, went to this game, could barely watch until like 4 minutes into the second due to the offense and defensive rebounding. Like how we responded for sure. The Blazers gave up 18 offensive rebounds in this game. That was a big problem. And that made the defense look worse, Eric. 18 offensive boards. What do you think was the biggest culprit for that? I
mean, they went ice cold in the second half, so a lot of bricks. They were shooting a lot of threes too, so check the sheet.
Check the sheet.
Don't know what that means.
Oh, he's talking to me. Yeah.
Oh.
Reese, we can talk about it after if you're still
up. And then so I don't know. I feel like it's still kind of a bench issue as offensive rebounding. Because the second unit players don't really rebound that well, or like especially when Josh Hart goes out of the game.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. I think so. This ties into Medina just asked any suggestions to fix the bench. It's tough right now, just because of personnel, and injuries and stuff. Obviously, when we have Gary Payton back soon, hopefully, that might make a difference. But I think Chauncey's just got to do kind of what he did tonight, and that's at the beginning of the second and fourth quarter, he had Nurk, Grant, and Ant all in there, and he kind of mixed the bench a little more.
Yeah, didn't play Sharpe.
Didn't play Sharpe in the second half. I don't know if that's the solution necessarily, because Sharpe's the only one who can really score on the bench unit. But I think he just got to continue mixing the rotations up a little bit, like people have suggested. Maybe because Ant got off to a good start in this game, maybe not take him out, maybe just leave him in and have Dame be the one that subs out at the beginning. In terms of other than staggering them a little better, it's hard to know what to do if you're Chauncey in terms of fixing the bench if no one's really stepping up from that unit.
Yeah, I will say this. Watford has to rebound better at times. He's kind of becoming one of those guys that's just prone to not boxing out. Mm-hmm. I am rewatching offensive rebounds right now. Some of them were stuff that you don't blame anybody for. Like LaMelo Ball missed a three super short, got in the rebound, went out of bounds with it, counted as an offensive board. One of them was Nurk blocked a shot that went directly to another player. Like, that's good defense. That's not a problem. It's just the stuff where guys don't box out. First one that I've noticed, just a lack of a box out leading to an offensive board, it was Trendon Watford, and I've kind of felt like just he and Eubanks together, neither of them box out enough, and it leads to some serious problems. If everybody boxes out, and the other team gets an offensive rebound, you can't really complain about that. You know what I mean? Sometimes that'll happen. Like, there was a play where Kelly Oubre went right over Josh Hart and grabbed a board, and Josh was like flying to the ball, and it wasn't anything that Josh Hart did wrong. There was nothing more he could do to try and get the board. It was just, one of those bounces. But obviously you don't want to give up 18 offensive rebounds. That's not good. And I think usually it's the bench that you can put more blame on because they're not boxing out or they're not rebounding strong. Mm-hmm. And that needs to get better for sure. Like, that's the thing, is this bench unit isn't getting it done defensively or offensively. You got to at least be able to rebound the freaking ball, and they've struggled with that too, which makes no sense because, sometimes you see Watford, Winslow, Eubanks lineups. the one thing those lineups should be able to do is rebound. The problem is they are terrible rebounding those three guys together. So that is a problem with the bench unit.
I still think one of the problems too is, other than Hart, of course, he's an excellent rebounder, but other than him, we still have way too many times, especially when Nurk's not in the game, where the 3, 4, and 5 are on the perimeter, and we have our guards trying to rebound down low. And the forwards can crash all they want, but it's really hard to get into rebounding position if you're constantly having to switch or guard perimeter players, and you're a forward or whatever, and you're not inside when the shot goes up. And then on top of that, there's just way too many examples. It actually improved a lot in the second half, and this is one of the main reasons our defense improved in the second half. But the first half, even in isolations, it wasn't even a lot of screens. It was just none of our defenders kept anyone in front of them. They got by them almost every time in the first half, which caused like Nurk or Eubanks or whoever to have to come up to the free throw line and stop their drive. And that leaves a ton. If they shoot that floater and miss, there's no one to box out the center in a lot of cases, or if there is, it's Dame or Ant or one of our smaller players. And so that happens way too often. Now, Grant, I think, had the best rebound in his entire life game tonight, right? But I don't think it was anything he was doing to rebound especially. But, it was nice to see him actually rebound, though. But I still think there's a lot of improvement they can do, both with positioning of their perimeter players on the perimeter and their bigs, having them play more defense inside, be the help interior defense, and then also just in terms of boxing out and things like that. I think it all needs to be improved a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And switching creates that problem. That's why I'm not a big fan of switching. Like, there was a play in the second quarter where Dame just died on a screen, but it was also probably a moving screen. Like, I don't even really blame Dame. Plumlee moved. But basically, Drew Eubanks had to switch out onto the guard, which was Rozier. And then Rozier drove, right-handed layup. It was that one Drew block that might have been a goaltend that they didn't call. But the problem is, after blocking that shot, Drew's running towards the baseline. Then he's completely out of bounds by the time he lands. He's not there to get the rebound. And on that play, can't even blame anybody else. Like, Plumlee was there with Hart and Lillard after the switch and got a hand on the ball, so it bounced out to a Hornet. But that's the problem with switching, is a lot of times bigs will get attacked downhill because guards know, even if I miss this layup, this big man's going to be running with me. They're not going to be there for the offensive rebound. And whoever the center is going to likely have a guard on them. They're going to be able to clean this up. So a lot of times as a guard with a big on you, you want to try and beat him to the rim, get a layup, obviously, or get a wide open jump shot. But even if you get to the rim and miss a layup, you have a good chance for an offensive rebound. So that's also why I'm not a fan of switching too much with bigs onto smalls, even if they can guard them, is it's hard to rebound out of those situations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I think that's at times why the bench struggles to rebound too, is because Eubanks puts himself in those situations all the time, even when it's not needed. Sometimes it is, like the play I just described, it was, but there's times where it shouldn't be switching and he does and chases the block, or maybe has to try and block the shot and he's not there to rebound.
Mm-hmm.
So
also times where, I mean, I hate to keep picking on him, but he's by far the biggest culprit of this, and that's when you're getting back on defense, him just not like knowing his responsibility as a rim protector and as the center. Like tonight, there were several examples where Plumlee doesn't even run down the court, or he's like 5 feet past the 3-point line, and Drew's up on him playing defense above the 3-point line on a transition or whatever, where who cares if Plumlee catches the ball out there? He's not going to shoot a left-handed 40-foot three, like, what are you doing out there guarding him? And then, of course, someone blows by another defender and we have no center back there to defend. It bugs me a lot that how out of position, especially Drew gets in transition and stuff. And until that gets cleaned up, that's going to continue to be an issue as well.
Yeah. I do
he's
think
not in there. He's not in there for the rebounds either on those.
Yeah,
you know,
his
like
transition defense needs to get better. Like we had that breakdown where we showed the play where he let Poku have a wide open dunk in the OKC game because he was guarding no one, and he was up on the perimeter. But then it's like, okay, well, you found your matchup. Okay, good. But he's not a shooter. I know he hit a couple 10-footers, but, you don't need a guard him behind the three-point line. So, yeah. But that's just the thing I have. The problem I have with Eubanks is I feel like he thinks the game very... How do I explain this? Especially in a way that doesn't sound too negative. I feel like he thinks the game... Like he has like a one-track mind where it's like... Where they're running back on defense, like, go guard my guy. And then he'll go guard his guy. And then it takes a couple seconds to like, okay, well, I need to be in help side position. He can't like go back, guard his guy, and get in help side position at the same time. It's like, go back, guard my guy, and then he can move on to the next thing. And you see it on pick and rolls too, where it's like even before the guard comes off screens, he's thinking switch, 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 switch. It doesn't even matter how the other guy gets through the screen or what else happens. He's like switch, switch, switch. He'll get through, and then it's like there's times where I feel like he sees the guard got through the screen and is on his man, but it takes him a second to realize like, oh well, I got to go back to my guy now. I shouldn't switch. And I don't know, man. I feel like that's why I talk about like his lack of awareness or just like his basketball IQ. Like you see it at times where you can tell he's going to jump and try and block a shot 2 seconds before it happens, no matter if the primary defender is there. Like he's just thinking the whole time a guy's like setting up a drive from the perimeter, he's thinking block, 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 block. And the guy drives will be completely smothered and he'll still fly him for the block.
If you have the ability to, could you load play one?
Is that an example of this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Like, I just came to an epiphany. That's how Drew Eubanks thinks the game of basketball. Mm-hmm. Is it not? Like,
it definitely seems that way. I mean, you have to be somewhat smart to do that in the NBA, to be an NBA player. But yeah, unfortunately, it does seem like it's like you are guarding Plumlee, and he just has to run and find him. And mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, and like, oh, if there's a screen, I have to switch, Yeah, it does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, and the NBA game moves super fast, so it's not even necessarily like a lack of just knowing what to do. It might just be a lack of being able to process what's happening at a fast enough speed to be able to do the right thing or to be able to read the play. Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's show this example.
All right, so on this play, we have a situation where it's kind of a transition play. And so this is what I'm saying. Plumlee's 37 feet from the hoop, right? What is Drew doing here? Like, why is he out here? He's not going to trap or help this screen because those aren't his two guys. That's Hart and Dame guarding them. And so we have a situation where now any drive to the basket, any kind of, pick and roll pass is going to lead to most likely Anthony or Dame being the one having to help in the paint on PJ Washington, which, isn't the greatest strategy. So as you go to the second play, we see that Drew's still out there guarding Plumlee at the 3-point line. Josh gets kind of screened, and Dame is going to be a little bit slow, but eventually he switches and comes up onto Ball. So that's actually, in this situation, I think that's how they should have done it. Hart should have immediately switched, and you have Dame on Ball and Hart on Washington. That's fine. So they probably should have recognized that a little sooner. But so Dame does a good job of recovering from initially not being quick enough. And in the third picture, you see that, unfortunately, because Hart tried to fight through the screen, he is late getting through on this. And so for this whole play, right, that we saw this coming a mile away. Now Dame is out on Ball. Hart's a step slow recovering to Washington. So Washington's going to catch this pass. And Eubanks completely took himself out of the whole play because he's guarding Plumlee at the 3-point line. Like, there's no reason why he shouldn't have been right next to the paint this whole time, so he could have stepped in, maybe even tipped this pass away or made it so Ball can't even get the angle on this pass, let alone just stand there while Washington gets this ball. Now, fortunately for the Blazers on this play, as we see in the fourth slide, Ant has probably one of his best help contests of the season and forces Washington to miss this shot. So great job by Anthony of help defense and recovering and getting there fast enough to not give Washington a wide open shot. But once again, this happens way too much, where our big man had no impact on the play when he should have been inside most of the play, and we have to rely on someone like Dame, Ant, or Hart to protect the rim, and that just can't happen if you want to be a good defensive team.
You know what's absolutely hilarious about this play is, like, it's a perfect example as to why Nurkic being a legitimate three-point shooter could help this team, right? It's a perfect example as to why having a stretch five could help the offense. It's just the problem is Mason Plumlee's not a freaking stretch five. That's where it comes to, you got to know your opponent. Like, if that's Karl Anthony Towns, like, understandable. You don't give up an open three there, you got to play up. That's why the guy is a problem to match up with when he plays the center position, and why I've come around to the thought process that him playing the four is not the best, because, you want to be able to put defensive centers in this pickle where it's like they want to protect the rim, they need to protect the rim, but also you got a legitimate three-point shooting threat out there. But you got to know your opponent. That dude ain't no shooter. Has he ever made a three before?
I mean, I think he's made a three, but yeah, I don't, like, not outside. I mean, Drew made a three in this game.
Drew is more of a shooter than he is, man.
Yeah. But so you bring up Nurk. That's the other thing I want to say about this play. Nurk is in position here. He's not allowing this wide open drive to Washington. He's not guarding Plumlee at the 3-point line. He's sagging back in the paint right here. Washington probably never even gets this pass because it's not open because Nurk is in the right spot. Yep. And if it is, Nurk would make a tough shot for him like Ant did. But I'd much rather have our center being the rim protector here than our, 6'3" shooting guard, And so that's the other thing is Nurk. That's why I don't understand people who, well, for one, think that Eubanks should be starting over him, but two, that say that Nurk isn't good defensively, because they just missed all of these kind of things, these little things that, like, Nurk is in position here, so this play never happens. Whereas Eubanks, it might seem like it's not his fault, right? Plumlee never touches the ball, so the opposing center didn't score, right? So it's not Jakob Poeltl going off for 31 on Eubanks, right? like he does on Nurkic. So they just see that Plumlee was taken out of this play with good defense from Drew, and it was the other four that messed up, right? When they don't even realize that Nurk would be smart enough to realize what is happening on this play and that he doesn't need to guard Plumlee like that.
Yeah, I mean, defense isn't 1v1, it's 5v5.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Eubanks plays defense like it's 1v1 sometimes, or 2v2. He loves switching onto those pick and rolls. Like, good team defenders go underrated, but they're very valuable. And I feel like that's why it's a litmus test. If you ask people what they think of Eubanks' defense versus Nurkic's defense, because Nurkic does those little things. Nurkic is in position. Eubanks struggles with that.
Well, even if Eubanks, like, let's just say he was a step faster and he blocks PJ Washington from behind on here, and the crowd's like, oh, look at that block, that still doesn't mean he was in good position on defense the whole time. He just happened to like get a block shot,
Yeah, you don't want to be put in those situations consistently at all. Where with a guy right at the rim, and you have to make a heroic block or a heroic help side rotation as a guard, which Ant does, so props to him. So yeah, team defense matters. How you are as a team defender, just being in the right spot, knowing your help side responsibilities as a big man matters. Not, pretending like Mason Plumlee's a 3-point shooting threat. But Drew Eubanks in transition really struggles defensively. It's almost like there's times where he doesn't even see the ball, and there's times where he doesn't see his man. But transition defense happens so fast, it's kind of hard to tell at times. who's making the mistakes and whatnot. So that's why we try and break it down. I know it comes across as probably picking on Eubanks to some, but this is just, we try and show what we think fans are missing. And we talk about this stuff all the time, the nuances of defense and, some of the areas where Eubanks struggles, which maybe are hard to notice. So that's why we show them a lot, so that hopefully if you don't understand where we're coming from or what we're talking about, we can show you, okay, this is where we're coming from. This is the type of stuff we're talking about. So, anyway, that's a good breakdown.
Matthew Smith says Mason Plumlee is 2 for 41 in his career from 3-point range. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it sounds right. So.
I mean, yeah, I would bet it's right. I will.
I don't know why he shot 41 if he's
41 threes. I mean, maybe he shoots the heaves that other people won't. Which, if he does, props to him. But that's also, at a certain point, Eric, when you're a bad enough 3-point shooter, you better not be saving your 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
No, that's correct. 2 for 41. I want to see the threes he's made.
Are you on Basketball Reference?
Yes.
Or do they have the heaves, right?
He's only 17 of those have been heaves.
So he shot 2 for 24 on legit threes.
Yeah, why has he shot 24 legit threes?
I don't know.
Is my question.
How did he shoot in Portland? I seem to remember him shooting a couple, but
0 for 4 the first year in Portland, then 0 for 5 during the first half of his second season in Portland, because obviously he got traded. So 0 for 9.
0 for 9, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and then he was 2 for 10 in 2018-2019 in Denver. Jokic inspired him to shoot 20%, 2 for 10, and then he hasn't made a 3 since. So, you want him shooting a 3.
Yeah.
You want him being inspired by Nurkic, and even Eubanks yourself, you hit a freaking 3, which was absolutely hilarious. And let Mason Plumlee be inspired by that and let him get those 3s up. I know he made a couple mid-range jumpers, but he ain't making 3s. If he made 3s, it would have made this game even more hilarious, Eric, because honestly, I wanted to get into this sooner, but I thought this was maybe the most hilarious game of the season. Mm-hmm. There was just so many points in this game where I was like, what is even happening on the floor? Like, Nurkic is 5 for 5 from 3.
Yeah.
There was a play, so as I said, I was watching it with Cotter, and that inbounds play where Eubanks hit that 3. Are you eating cookies?
Sorry, I'm opening a thing of chocolate for my daughter.
Making me jealous.
She's very bored.
Yeah.
As people can probably tell.
I was gonna say. But on the play where Eubanks hit that 3, there's 20 on the shot clock or something like that.
I think it was 19 when he shot, and Mark Williams wasn't that far away from him. It's not like it was wide open.
Yeah.
Well, let it fly, big man. He's hitting them, right?
Well, it's just he was the outlet valve, and obviously the play was, okay, if you can't get anything underneath, they ran something with Dame underneath. It was okay, well, if you can't get the ball in to anyone underneath, you throw it up top to Eubanks, big target, right? you can easily just throw it over the top, he'll catch it. And then obviously it was designed for a guard to come take a handoff. And Cotter, as they were going to inbound the ball, was why is Eubanks behind the 3-point line? And I kind of said this as a joke, but I was because he's a sniper, watch, when he caught the ball. I didn't think he was actually going to shoot it.
I know, me either.
And then he shot it. And that was the most hyped I've gotten all season for a Drew Eubanks bucket, because I called it. I said, I told you he was a sniper. That's what I told Cotter. It was just absolutely hilarious. But there was multiple times in this game where it was just absolute chaos. One way, the ball's bouncing around, hitting multiple defenders, and, ends up going the other way. Then Nurkic hits a 3, and There was that foul Nurk got where he almost had that finish where he somehow almost went up and under, which I would have lost my mind, fallen out of my chair, and people on Twitter would have started catching strays. Nobody in particular, but just people. The finishing thing, if he finished whatever the hell that layup was. This game I just thought was absolutely chaotic and hilarious. There's multiple plays in this game that just had me laughing. It was kind of enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Would have been enjoyable if we ruined Dame's night, but yeah.
Yeah.
We won, so it made it all funny.
Yep. Chat, if there's a few more plays that I'm forgetting, but you can leave them in chat. Shout out Hyper Prime with the $5 donation. Says, late, what a hell of a game for Nurk. Fire emoji. But overall, this game proves that our second, third, and fourth best players can carry the team when Dame is struggling. That bench, though, yawn emoji. Yeah, I mean, Dame, if he's playing defense like he did tonight, he can have a bad shooting night. We have enough offensive talent. Never really been the question. It's just, can we get the job done defensively? But then also, against the good teams, you still need to have the bench not completely screw things up. And you look at plus minus, Nurk plus 20, Dame plus 21, Hart plus 18, Grant plus 12, right? But then the bench lineup. In 16 minutes, Trendon Watford was a plus 1. In 12 minutes, Drew Eubanks was a minus 9. In 7 minutes, Shaedon Sharpe was a minus 8. Keon Johnson in 18 minutes, I thought he had some good defensive moments, but he was 0 for 4 from 3. I guess the one long jumper he hit was a 2 foot on the line, but he was a minus 4. And I don't just look at plus minus for a one-game trend, right? Like, if next game the starters are a minus and the bench is a plus, like, I'm not reading anything into that. You can only really read into plus minus if it showcases a trend over, like, 10 to 20 games, right? Because plus minus is obviously noisy. Like, Ant started off this game hot offensively, wasn't making mistakes defensively, and he had a bad plus minus because he was playing with the bench. So obviously plus minus is dependent upon the other 4 guys out there on the court with you and how they're doing. If they're struggling, your plus minus is going to suffer even if you're playing well. So that's why plus minus is super noisy, and just in one game or so, you can't base anything off of that. But if it's a trend like 10 games in a row, all 4 guys on the bench are a negative, and the starters 4 games in a row are a positive, that shows you that starters are outplaying the other team's starters. The bench is getting outplayed by the other team's bench. So that's the thing, is you should only use plus minus to establish general trends. The general trend is obviously this bench struggles against other teams' bench lineups, where our starters are generally competitive, if not completely outplaying other teams' starters, and then our bench unit is giving that up.
Yeah. They're just... Unfortunately, there's no one that you can rely on the bench right now to come in and not make multiple mistakes. Like Keon, I thought had some good moments in this game, and it's not even really his fault because he's in his second year and hasn't really had a consistent role this year. But like, he comes in, makes some incredible plays, and you're thinking, oh man, this guy could really be the answer on our bench maybe. So that's great. And then the next like 5 plays, it's like, oh man, this is like one of the worst players on the court, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, so that kind of inconsistency, like I said, it's not necessarily his fault, but it's nice that he's showing a little more flashes than some of the other players on the bench. He played more
minutes than anyone off the bench. Sharpe played 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think if he gets more consistent role like he did tonight, he was one of the first subs in. He played the second half where Sharpe didn't. I think maybe he can start to get a groove. So that might be something they could develop or look into. And worst case scenario, if he plays well, it should increase his trade value a little bit because he's one of the few maybe assets we have that's actually somewhat easy to trade, you know. But yeah, I just like, at least you can tell with him, it's not necessarily because he's not trying, because he does fly around the floor and he does give effort.
Yeah. So Sharpe gets benched. Let's talk about that. Do you agree with how Chauncey's handled Shaedon Sharpe, where like there's been multiple games where he hasn't even played a second in the second half, he's playing less in the second half. Sometimes it's when he's had a good first half. It seems like defensively he's giving good effort out there as of late. He's not up to speed on that end right now, but there's a couple plays he got scored on in the first half, but I think it wasn't even a problem with his defense. One was a lob over the top where Drew Eubanks switched, and Sharpe was there on the lob, but couldn't stop Mark Williams, who's much bigger than him. Do you agree with how Sharpe's being handled? Do you think like he's the biggest problem with the bench unit right now? Because a lot of times, like if you just look at plus minus and care about that sort of thing, he, is in the worst lineups. I don't know, like how much do you blame the bench for that? How much is him? Like, what's your Shaedon Sharpe status update, and what do you think of the way Chauncey's handled him?
Well, you know how we talked about this last post-game stream about how it's hard to hold people accountable because there's not really replacements for anyone.
Yeah.
I think with Sharpe, I mean, one, it's a rookie, so you'd want to obviously send a message that, you have to play the right way. So that's important. So if Chauncey feels like he's not doing the game plan or what he's telling him to do, that's tough to know just from an outside perspective. So it could be as simple as that. But unfortunately for Sharpe, there are options right now, like Keon. Like it's not like Drew. Like if he holds Drew to the same standards he's holding Sharpe to who is he playing at center, right? Yeah. Winslow's out now, so who is he playing at the backup for if Watford is held to the same standards? So I think it's just I don't necessarily think it's punishment for Sharpe. I think it's just like, okay, Sharpe's not really doing much. Let's get Anterdame back in the game, or let's give Keon a chance in the second half or whatever. So, unfortunately for him, he just plays a position where we have probably, the least amount of need for if other players, and especially the starters, are playing heavy minutes. And I don't think it's anything necessarily his fault. So if you combine that with maybe Chauncey is being a little hard on him, once again, I feel like reps are the most important thing for Sharpe right now. But if he's also, I could see a scenario. I'm not saying this is true, but from Chauncey's perspective, maybe he feels like in the minutes he's playing, he's maybe dogging it a little bit too much in certain areas, especially on defense. So maybe it's not necessarily any mistakes he's making. It's just he doesn't like the inconsistent effort if he's not getting like lob dunks or whatever.
Yeah.
So it could just be as simple as that. But I would like to see him get more reps.
Yeah, I just don't see how it's that, because I think his effort has been noticeably better lately, and that's when it started happening. Like, there was a play where I'm just kind of going through his minutes here.
To be fair, we just did get Keon back after being out for a while too, so like it kind of matched up with when Keon came back from his injury, right?
I mean, kind of, but like, who's their small ball for? It's Kelly Oubre. Like, you got to play Watford there. Like, what's Watford doing? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, Watford has some bad effort moments, and he'll play more. And it's like you could go Ant, Keon, Sharpe, I don't know, whoever the four is in Eubanks, right? Like, the four being Grant. Stagger him with the bench lineup more. That's what I would like to see. Like, I'm just kind of going through some of the defensive stuff right now. Some of Charlotte's shot attempts, like. There was a play where he was guarding a guy on the perimeter. A shot went up from the corner, and he had no chance of boxing out Mark Williams, who had nobody on him under the rim. But he ran into the back of him and tried to completely push him out of rebounding position. Like, really tried hard to keep him off the boards. Unfortunately, the ball bounced out towards the perimeter, and it was the Theo Maledon rebound. And Sharpe tried recovering out to it, and Theo Maledon flipped a pass to Mark Williams as Sharpe recovered back out, and Mark Williams got that dunk where he traveled. I don't know if you know what play I'm talking about, but it was at the end of the first. Like, good effort. Like, I think defensively he's given better effort. Like, very next play, one of the plays later, it was a Mark Williams alley-oop dunk where Eubanks and Sharpe switched, and Sharpe did as good of a job as possible of trying to deny that alley-oop pass, but just couldn't get there. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, maybe he could have played better defense, but I don't see how. Effort-wise, he's been much more engaged than I feel like he has been as of late. Like, I think, honestly, he's a better rebounder than Trendon Watford when he's engaged. Obviously, that vertical leap and whatnot. I don't know. Well,
in this particular game, he doesn't take a shot. It could also be Chauncey did say this earlier in the year that there were some plays on offense that he was not doing what he's continually asking him to do.
I just don't even think that's fair for a bench lineup that's a complete mess anyway, and it's not just him, and it's I don't know. It's like he criticized him for not making the right read in terms of catching the ball, like curling off a screen, and it's like, well, dude, how many guys with your bench do you have that don't even have to make a read in that situation because nobody's guarding them behind the 3-point line because they can't freaking shoot?
Yeah, see, I don't know. To me, Chauncey doesn't seem like a coach that would just randomly pick on one person. Sorry, hold on a second.
That's the dog playing around, but Eric is like Dame after the game during the ceremony, kind of shepherding his kids, but it's a dog instead. Anyway, what's up, chat?
All right. Yeah.
What were you saying?
I would never kick my dog. Shut up, Drew. But no. Like, to me, this is where I am going to give Chauncey a little bit of a pass, because if he was doing this like all season, I would maybe say like, what the heck, like, but there's got to be a reason why he's going from like 15 to 20 minutes a game to now having a shorter leash. And I think it's got to either be there is something very specific they are asking him to do, and he's not doing it until he starts doing it better, that he's just not going to play much. And it could just be something simple, like in like a defensive scheme or something. He's not doing what they're asking him to do. Or it could be as simple as, like I said, Keon came back a few weeks ago and he's kind of showing that he can be a little more disruptive than Sharpe can right now, and the bench is struggling. And it's not necessarily Sharpe's fault. It's just that he's going to play Keon a little more. But I don't think it's something like I don't think Chauncey's like blaming him for the defensive problems or anything.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. I feel uneasy about Sharpe giving noticeably better effort, and he might have just been gassed. I talked about it, like he hasn't played this heavy of a schedule. It could have been legs, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Something could have been bothering him that was translating to the court, which you can't let that happen. But players are human, right? I just don't like how his effort, intensity, even some of his defensive possessions have improved, and it's coincided also with a minutes cut. Because the last thing you want to do is like, okay, well, we've told him he needs to give better effort, and now he's getting better effort, but we're going to, his minutes are getting cut, and now he feels like, oh, wow, I'm giving better effort, and I'm getting punished, or my minutes are still getting cut, even though I'm getting better effort. Like, that's where it's like Chauncey as a coach, as a player's coach, like, has to know how to handle that, because I can see a young player like somebody of his age, 19 years old, getting discouraged in a way. And, people say, oh, well, he's only 19. He's just a rookie. Like, he shouldn't, feel entitled to any minutes. Like, he should be grateful, blah, blah. Like people say that all those types of things. But, like, it's just psychological as a human. It's like you work hard to give better effort, and it doesn't coincide with being rewarded. It actually coincides with the opposite. Like, that's just psychological stuff. So,
I mean, he has had some good defensive possessions, but I kind of guess disagree that it's like noticeably different effort.
I think it's noticeable.
I just feel like he's.
How many plays were we talking about he was giving up on during that stretch?
Yeah, but I mean,
and we're not talking about that anymore.
I mean, he's still giving up on some plays for sure. Not in this game, but
last game,
pretty much every game, yeah, including last game.
I don't remember.
This is what I'm talking about, where it might be something specific. So, he's had a play almost every game this year where he plays good defense on a drive, and then all of a sudden just stops when the player gets near the rim. He puts his hands down and just lets the player go up, doesn't contest, stuff like that. And
when was the last time that happened, though?
Last game. It's happened every game other than I don't remember this game.
There was a play where he would normally do that he contested recently in one of the previous games. Like, I think he's, that has been a problem, but I think he's giving noticeably better effort.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. I'm not saying, this dude all of a sudden went from having all these, plays where he didn't give that final bit of effort. And now all of a sudden he's given, 100%, 110% out there on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's that drastic, but I think he's noticeably more engaged offensively. I think he's moving quicker out there. I think, he's making an effort on the boards, like trying to box guys out, trying to be physical with bigger guys and that sort of thing. I mean,
well, I guess my point is I still don't think it's matching what he was doing defensively at the beginning of the season. And I mean, we talked about lots of reasons for that. Rookie wall, playing the most games he's ever played in a season in his career, all those kind of things, trying to figure out how to play in the NBA. All that stuff is tough, and he still has time to improve. But even though he's improved, he had the dip of effort, or the lack of whatever was the cause. It might not necessarily been effort, but you know what I'm saying. And now he's better these last few games. But if it's still not matching what the coaching staff is expecting from him and saying like you're better on that end than you were when you were not giving a ton of effort, but now it's still
I'm not saying it's wrong for them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's wrong for them. I'm just saying like they need to communicate properly to him so it's not something where like it screws with him psychologically as a player where he feels like, and I think he is giving much better effort, trying to do all the little things like trying hard, playing with much better energy, and he still feels, you don't want him feeling like he's still getting punished when he improves. Like that's, what's the word, like counterintuitive, right? So that's the thing is like that's just where you need to communicate like, we're cutting your minutes because we want to give Keon a chance and we love how you're doing this. Like you got to notice that effort and point that out to him. Like you just don't want a young guy like that who hasn't dealt with that situation before to get discouraged psychologically.
Yeah.
Because he feels like he's giving better effort and his minutes are still getting cut. So I'm not saying that's necessarily a problem. I'm just saying like that's where as a coaching staff you have to be good about communicating what the reasoning is for him, like still recognizing the strides he's making to play hard, to play with better energy, to do some of the little things I feel like he's doing a little bit of a better job of lately. So it's more so just like the psychological nature behind that, especially for a 19-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because I have to say this every time. So when we discuss Sharpe, we get comments like, chill, he's 19 and didn't play in college. Yeah, we know that. We're specifically talking about what's happening right now on the court and whether he can be a dependable player on the bench. We have not soured one bit on his long-term prospects. I don't
even know if that message is directed at us because it makes no sense if it's directed at us.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just I just like to say that because I don't want anyone thinking like, we're like I'm giving up on Sharpe because he can't play defense or what. Like that has nothing to do with it. Like he's been given the team more than I think anyone could have hoped for his rookie year if you were being realistic. And I don't have anything negative in terms of his long-term prospects.
Yeah, it's the first step of his development. You know what I mean? Like it's just part of it. Like Dame spent 4 years at Weber State, and he was like a 10-point per game scorer his freshman year at Weber State. Like, what was Anthony Simons doing his rookie year? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just part of the developmental process. We're chilling on that for sure. We're just talking. I'm just talking about. I'm not saying he's a disappointment. I'm not saying anything. I'm just talking about his play. I got to analyze him and what he brings to the court right now since he's playing.
And why is not playing in the second half?
Yeah, and then B, like, why is he not playing in the second half? The psychological nature behind the game matters for a young player. Combsy says, wasn't directed at you guys with a heart emoji. I didn't feel like it was directed at us because I feel like we've been pretty...
I just like, I mean, I know I particularly read your comment, but like, we get that a lot whenever we talk about Sharpe, and so I like to say that just in case anyone's out there thinking that.
Yeah.
But and we talked about this in regards to Anthony Simons earlier on the show before the game, and we talked about like age, and stuff like this. And once again, yeah, like you said, Sharpe's 19. Dame was a rookie; he was 22. CJ, when he started in the starting lineup after Aldridge left and stuff, he was 23 already as well. So still a long time for Sharpe to develop. And just look how much better Anthony is in his fourth and now fifth years compared to his first year and stuff like that. I mean, he didn't even play his first year under similar circumstances to what Sharpe went through after his high school career was over, and he had kind of a year where he didn't play and all that. So the fact that Sharpe's given us anything right now, I think, is good and bodes well for him in the future.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, like that's the thing is, yeah, he has to earn his minutes for sure. But that's just where, if he's playing better than he was when he was getting 20 minutes per game, and then he starts playing better, playing harder, and only gets 7 minutes per game, like, you gotta explain to him why, because psychologically that can mess with a young player. So, that's just part of it. Shout out Mike Aldridge, $5 donut says, Eric had going room to room checking on my pets. I don't know if you said Eric had you going room to room checking on your pets, or
he probably thought the squeaking was coming from one of his pets. So yeah.
Yeah. So
that's my guess. Sorry, Mike.
Thank you, Mike, for the $5 dodo.
It wasn't a post-game show, but we had a Blazers Uprise live show that the dog was just going crazy on her toys the whole time. So
yeah, that was fun. Anyway, so we haven't talked about Dame's ceremony. You want to talk about that at all, or?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I thought, like you mentioned, Hurd did a good job. Kind of weird to have Jody come out and not say anything to Dame other than shake his hand and give him a hug. But oh well.
I mean, an owner that takes a back seat in regards to that, is that really such a bad thing?
No, I think it's just...
I know, but fans just act like that's
right.
such a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. And like, I was in the voice call watching that with, other Blazer fans. They're like, oh, Jody, oh. It's like, man, can we just put that on pause for this great moment? Like, why are we worried or caring about Jody? Like, this Dame's moment, who cares? Like, I don't know. Because that's the thing is when they were bringing her out, I was worried like, oh, fans are gonna boo her and kind of take over this moment and make it awkward and like ruin it in a way, And I was glad that they didn't do that, but I was worried about that.
Yeah, typical Dame. He's like, I don't really have much to say, so I'm gonna keep this short, and then he goes on for. Like
He's just like us.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought he had a bunch of really nice things to say. Including reiterating for like the 8 millionth time that Portland's his home and that he's, gonna do there. And I love the last little bit. I forgot how he phrased it, but one more thing to accomplish here or something like that. Yeah, or one last thing to do. And I was thinking the whole time, they're reading all his accomplishments and he's going through his career. It seemed like, a retirement ceremony, right? And the only thing I could think of the whole time is how awesome that would be to retire his number, have like a similar ceremony, only to add that NBA champion to that. It would just be unreal if he's able to accomplish that. And it's going to be tough. I'm not saying that he will or can or whatever, but I mean, if I had one sports wish in my entire life, it would be that, for him to get a championship here in Portland.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he can get that done someday.
Yeah, but at the same time, enjoy the process. because he knows how hard it is. We should know how hard it is. Like, only 1 out of 30 teams wins a championship. If you can't enjoy the process, then I don't see how you can even enjoy the team at all. So there's some people out there where it's like, oh my goodness, that was loud.
Sorry.
That was so loud. If I'm deaf, I assume chat is deaf now.
Sorry.
Like right next to the mic? What was that? Or did you squeeze it?
No, she got another one. I got it though.
That was so loud. As I was saying, Georgia said you just woke my dog up, dude. Jay King was startled. Yeah, just making sure you guys are still awake because it's past midnight. But
my kids stay up late. That's because it's winter vacation. So yeah, they don't have any reason to get up. My son, we went out to eat tonight, and that was the first time he'd left the house in like a week.
Yeah. But as I was saying, like, there's some fans out there where it seems like they can only enjoy the team if they're looking like a contender, and it's like, man, how do you even handle that? How are you even a fan of the team if you can't stand them 80% of the time? You know what I mean? Like, I've never understood that with certain fans, and it's all the fans that the second anything goes wrong, they are just freaking out and blaming everybody on the roster, talking about how bad they are, and just super insanely negative. And it's the people that I've talked about before on stream. Recently we've been kind of addressing some of them, I feel like, and on Blazers on Press Live I talked about them a little bit earlier today, just like that type of fan where it's like, man, how are you a Blazer fan if you can't enjoy the process? I have enjoyed so much of Dame's career, so many great moments, and we haven't even made an NBA Finals, but there's a ton of great moments. And me and Jew are really big on like knowing the CBA and team building, and that's in regards to the entire NBA, not just the Blazers, but the whole like trying to build the team to get there is an enjoyable process to sit here and discuss. Like, I know you guys love discussing trades and analyzing trades and that sort of thing, and the draft and everything that goes into the process of trying to win a championship is enjoyable for me. That's why we focus a lot on team building and focus a lot on the draft and nerding out on that type of stuff, because that's what we enjoy. And I feel like if you can enjoy that part of the process, then it's you can be happy with a decade, even if you don't win a championship, because you're able to enjoy more than just this team being a contender or this team being a champion, because it's hard. But then at the end of that, if you win a championship after all that, it makes that even more enjoyable. The struggle makes that enjoyable. The struggle would make that awesome. Like, everything in Dame's career leading up to that point would make that absolutely amazing. So that's where some of the frustration comes in. But in the end, the last couple of days we've had off, and I've just kind of sat back and tried to get in touch with what made me enjoy the team and the NBA and all that in general, because all the negativity around certain players was really, like, even it was bothering me, to be honest, and was getting me down and just not enjoying the team or the process anymore. And the past couple of days I spent some time kind of getting back in touch with that and remembering why I enjoy watching the team 82 games a season, why I enjoy streaming even. So that's the thing, is you got to enjoy the process. Obviously, Dame winning it all would be the most amazing thing, and if I had one sports wish, Eric, it would be the same. And all this struggle going into that would make it even sweeter. But in the end, even if it doesn't happen, still the whole journey has been super enjoyable. It's been fun, and you got to enjoy the process with or without a ring. And I've enjoyed it so far. We'll continue to enjoy it, and that's where our coverage comes from. It's just trying to build towards that point and kind of trying to enjoy that along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Yeah, thank you. So
lots of crying. Definitely. If we win a championship,
I will put
would
up.
Be a mess.
Eric, I will put up the plastic in my room. I might do it if we make the finals. If we make the finals, I will do it. Because if we win a championship, it's a 24-hour stream. But if we make the finals, I'm putting up plastic in my room. By that point, I'm probably moved out of here because if we go on a playoff run, that'll be very successful for the channel. And still trying to work to getting out of this specific place. But wherever I'm at, I will put up the stuff they put up in MLB locker rooms, and I will get some champagne. I'll have to cover my computer except for the webcam, and I will put on the goggles and I'll pop some freaking champagne for you guys on stream if we make the NBA Finals. And then if we win, it's a 24-hour stream, as has been promised. But if we win in Portland, I might have to, you might have to host the stream, Eric. I don't know if you plan on being in downtown Portland, but I might have to host the stream from my phone as I'm in downtown Portland climbing a light post or something.
Yeah. Definitely tried to be at that game.
Yeah. So, a playoff run would be a ton of fun. We haven't had one in this channel yet. But would love to have one. I mean, this channel was absolutely popping off when we started 4-0 at the start of the season. I expect a playoff run would be even bigger than that. So,
hey man, what's better, a championship run or having Dame score 55 points and lose in the first round?
Yeah, I'll take the championship run. But that was, still an amazing performance, man. I mean, just some of those shots were just so breathtaking, Like, yeah, it sucked losing that game, but just that was such a phenomenal game, man, from Dame. So
James is saying we're going to win a title in 2030. Dame will be 40 years old, and he'll walk off into the sunset as the young guys carry him to a title in his final year.
Yeah, bro, like, if Dame wants to be Udonis Haslem, like, okay, if he wants to win a ring as a player, as Sharpe and Simons and, I don't know, whatever rookie we have, other, young players we have in the future, lead them there. I'm down for that. The nice thing about this team is you do have a window, man. That's also why I'm not panicking as much, is because this offseason will be a chance to go after a true star. Should have all our future picks, assuming we'll make the playoffs. Guys are young on this team, like Ant will be another year older, better next year, I assume. Same with Shaedon Sharpe. But Nurkic is only 28, and Nurkic is improving as a three-point shooter, and I still think Nurkic has some of his maybe best years ahead of him, or at least some good years. He's only 28 years old. He's just entering his prime, and same thing for Jeremy Grant, who's 28 years old as well. Josh Hart is, let's see here. Josh Hart's only 27. It's not like this is an old team where it's like, we got to win now or we're never going to. You got a window. People say Dame's time is running out. I still think Dame's having his best year ever, and he takes great care of his body. So I think he still has a ton of really good years left in him. And if he wins at 37, where he's a step below where he is now, but you got Sharpe and Simons and whoever else playing at an elite level, sure, I'll take a championship that way. You know what I mean? I'll just, it won't be Dame necessarily being as great as he has been in the past, leading him to that championship, but I don't care, man. Just get that dude a ring. And, even if it's 5 years from now, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
You got a window here, though, which is why anything someone off Sharpe in the farm has to be to make us a real top-level contender right now, because I think this team has a chance to contend the next 5 years. It just has to fix the bench issues, and, Dame's improved defensively this year. Ant's improved defensively this year. A couple more years for Ant. He's only 23, and, I don't think there's anything that rules him out from being a good defensive player. We'll see. So, long process ahead, but it's nice having kind of some years to build towards that still, and actually feel like we're on the right track with a decent team that should internally improve over the next couple of years.
Yeah. So, Dro says that Dame is the basketball version of Luka Modric. Nobody thought Croatia could make it, and we did. Why can't Portland? So,
is that a soccer reference?
Yeah, but
Connor, where are you at? I need a translation.
Well, So Croatia had a great run in the World Cup, but they finished third. So you're saying why can't Dame
And they finished
finish
second 4 years
third,
ago.
third, or be the runner-up? That
Yeah.
why are you limiting it to that? Why can't he be Messi and win in his last World Cup?
I mean, basically the parallel to Dame.
I'm just messing.
The parallel to Dame is Dirk winning it in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And given that the ceremony was tonight, I don't know if you guys saw the tag in the thumbnail, but I don't know. I'm wondering if there's someone out there that put 2 and 2 together with the reference in the tag, but then also Dame's ceremony and what he said at the end of his speech and what I had with the tag. Because it was a double entendre, or however you say it. Yeah, hopefully I pronounced that right, because I feel like I didn't, but I think I did. Yeah, it was a little hidden meaning there.
I mean, Dirk was 32 in 2011 when he won. That would be this year's equivalent for Dame.
I feel like he was an older 32 than...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like if Dame won it at 35.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, the Nurk Nowitzki was, a little reference to that. That's why I had to put Dame in the thumbnail. But also Dame loving Nurk shooting and PJ Washington hating it. This is my favorite, maybe my favorite post-game thumbnail of the year. But I might try and get, like, I'll try and get creative and throw little hidden meanings in thumbnails and just, like, stuff that I don't think people will get. But, maybe somebody puts 2 and 2 together. I like to be creative like that. Little Easter eggs. But yeah, we got Nurk Nowitzki on our team, Eric. Nurk Nowitzki. You want to go around the NBA and wrap this thing up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right, we had 7 games from today. We did picks against the spread earlier today. It was looking like a terrible night for me, but yeah, we'll get into it because it changed real quick. Let me pull down the standings. I'll take a new screenshot and look at the rest. Anyway, you want to start off with this first game, Eric, because you picked it right and I didn't.
Yeah, so the Nets got off to a good start against the Cavs and pretty much controlled the whole game. Hold on, I gotta bring up the Bucks score.
Garland had 46 in the loss.
Yeah, he was great, but it was not enough. KD had 32 for the Nets, who have been playing really good. TJ Warren came off the bench. I think he had 15 in the first half and finished the game with 23. Kyrie also had 32 points. All 3 of them scoring on really good efficiency too. They shot 57.3% from the field and 60% from 3 and got 17 free throws in this game. So tough to beat. No matter how well you play, if you give up the kind of efficiency numbers on offense, it's going to be really tough to get a win. And the Cavs didn't necessarily play that bad, but yeah, it's just not enough to overcome.
Yep. And yeah, shout out to Brooklyn playing great basketball lately. In the next game, I doubled down on the Clippers, who were 5.5-point favorites. They were down 14 with 3 minutes and 34 seconds remaining. It was looking doomed for me, Eric. Doomed for me. You picked the Pistons, by the way. It was looking good for you and doomed for me. You've been leading our picks against the spread segment.
That's a 19.5 point if you're going for gambling terms.
Yeah.
With 3 minutes left. I had 19.5 point cushion.
Well, I needed overtime in order for the Clippers to cover the spread. Like, they couldn't win by 1 or lose by 1. Obviously, I needed overtime. They didn't have the time to get it up by 5 in regulation, or up by 6 in regulation. By the way, picks against the spread segment, if you don't know what it is, we have it Mondays and Thursdays on our second channel at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Our second channel is Blazers Uprise Live. We do those Monday, Thursday streams and then upload the Believe in Blazers podcast over there, so definitely check it out. Just got to plug that. But yeah, so I doubled down on the Clippers. Got a awesome come from behind win there as they win in overtime. Obviously would have liked for the Pistons to beat them standings wise. Always root for Eastern Conference teams against Western Conference playoff teams. But the Clippers pulled things out. They had 32 from Paul George. Terrence Mann had a clutch bucket late. 18 from Luke Kennard, just a team effort. 16, Marcus Morris. Reggie Jackson had 14. John Wall, 16. Norm Powell, 7 for 12, 16 points. Kawhi Leonard missed this game. For the Pistons, 23 points from Bogdanovic, 21 on 8 for 10 shooting from Isaiah Stewart. They had 8 players with at least 13 points. Sadiq Bey, 13 off the bench. Burks, 14. Diallo, 12. Killian Hayes, 18 points, 10 assists. He's showing some flashes finally. Just has struggled late in this game. Key turnover, a couple of missed shots. But the Clippers take care of business, moved to 20-15.
And then next game, we got the Heat winning at home without Butler and Bam. They get, their high score was 19 from Max Strus. They started Nikola Jovic in this game. Kyle Lowry had 18 points. Tyler Hero was 7 of 19, had 14 points. Orlando Robinson, someone that Torrey was very high on, and
the next Naz Reid
was another one of those gettable bigs that has kind of been on and off a roster right now. You could have added maybe at some point this season at any of the points when Miami kind of cut him and then brought him back. But he had 15 and 9 off the bench in 27 minutes. For the Timberwolves, this is a bad loss considering who their opponents were missing, but Anthony Edwards had 29. D'Angelo Russell, 13 points, 8 assists, 16 from Jaden McDaniels, and 21 and 11 from Naz Reid off the bench, your other guy. So backup bigs did well in this game, but just like I said, not the greatest loss for the Wolves, considering Jimmy and Bam are out of this one.
Yep, Wolves fall to 16-18. I've been on, as I've said numerous times, I've been on board the Naz Reid train for a while now. Now it's getting kind of full because he's been playing great basketball. But I'll be early to the next Naz Reid. Orlando Robinson is the next Naz Reid. Don't know why he went undrafted. Should have been a borderline first-round pick, in my opinion. Skilled big man. Can shoot, dribble, pass, just like Naz Reid. So calling it early in 2 years from now when Orlando Robinson is a really good bench player, you guys can let me know that I was early. Anyway, Rockets, Bulls. The Rockets win by 15 in Chicago. There was news recently that James Harden would seriously consider returning to the Rockets in free agency if he didn't return to the Sixers, which is kind of a funny phrasing because obviously if he returned to the Rockets, he wouldn't return to the Sixers. I kind of laughed at the way that was phrased, but yeah, I don't know, like, that would be wild. I don't know how good the Rockets would be, but they were good today. 133 points against the Bulls, who were just falling apart. The Bulls fall to 14-19 for the Rockets. 36 points from Kevin Porter Jr., 14 for 22, 6 for 12 from 3, had 9 assists and 7 rebounds. Phenomenal game for him. Şengün, 10 for 12, 25 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Not as good as Nurkic, though. 24 from Jalen Green, 9 for 15. All three of those guys, super efficient games, leading their youth movement for the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan, 11 for 18, 31 points. Zach LaVine, 9 for 19, 22. But they don't have enough talent outside of that. And defensively, just an absolutely horrific game from the Bulls.
Yep. And thankfully, the Rockets won my double down to save my day and finish 500. But next game, we have the Pelicans, also without several players, including Zion, Brandon Ingram, amongst others. They just absolutely throttled the Pacers. This game wasn't ever close. Leading the way was 22 from Najee Marshall. Was the high scorer for the Pelicans.
That's another one of my undrafted dudes I liked, man.
Yeah. 22, 6, and 4 from him. Nice game. And he plays good defense. Valanciunas had 20 and 12. 19 points from CJ, but he was 5 of 14 shooting. And for the Pacers in the loss, they get their high score was 15 from Benedict Mathurin off the bench, but he was 4 for 11. And then their starters, Halliburton, 4 for 12, 12 points, 6 assists. So another bad game from him. Nembhard played 22 minutes, only had 5 points and 2 assists. Not much from their starters in this one.
Yeah, Najee Marshall, man. Cronin, I'm available for hire if you want a good undrafted signee signings. I will give you some names. Anyway, the Jazz lose to the Spurs. The Spurs on picks against the spread. I like meditated for a second. I saw Spurs in 123. Eric, I don't know why, but they scored more than that. So I guess I was wrong. But 126 for the Spurs as they beat the Jazz. And the Spurs bottom feeder 11 and 22. Jazz fall to 19 and 17. For the Spurs to lead them. 24 from Devin Vassell. He was 8 for 22, though. 21 from Keldon Johnson, 9 for 14. Malachi Branham, the rookie from Ohio State that you really liked. In 26 minutes, Eric, 20 points, 7 for 11 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3. So the rookie from Ohio State, good game for him.
Yeah, he hasn't really gotten much of a shot this year, but nice to see him have a good game.
Yep, absolutely. For the Jazz, 25 from Clarkson, 17 from Conley. Markkanen had 32 points, 12 rebounds, 8 for 18. It wasn't a problem with scoring the ball. They just could not defend in this game. And then the final game, obviously, Blazers take care of business. Let's take a look at the updated standings, Eric.
All right.
We are 1.5 games back of fourth because the Clippers won today. If they lost that overtime game, we would actually only be a single game back of home court advantage. Denver's taken over the 1 seed from Memphis and New Orleans. That's kind of the trio at the top there. And then this Phoenix has fallen out, home court advantage. They lost on Christmas Day to the Nuggets. Very great game. Kings right there, 17 and 14. The Kings recently in the past, week or so, lost to the Hornets at home. So at least we took care of business there. I don't know. What do you think of the standings picture so far?
I mean, it's still all jumbled. It's just kind of, glass half full, you're still right there. Glass half empty. If you just would have taken care of some business, you'd be up there. So see it both ways. I don't think either answer is wrong, but you don't have to be every team. So I'm a little frustrated that we're not better than that, but at the same time, you're still able to accomplish what you can do in January if you have a good month, like the schedule should set up for them to do. So you hopefully beat the Warriors on Friday, and then you have, I think, 11 of 15 in January at home. Take care of business there, and these standings will look a lot different at the end of that month.
Yep. Just looking ahead at the schedule, I don't have a graphic for that, but next game is Golden State on Friday. Today's a Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. Friday is Golden State, then Saturday, Sunday off. Then Monday, Detroit, a week from now, we will have our live in-person watch party. So if you're in the Portland area, time is running out to buy tickets to that. Already looking forward to meeting some of you who have already bought tickets. Should be fun, but we'll have a live watch party for the game on a projector, and then we will have post-game show from there. I'm going to go test that on Wednesday. I'm going to go down to the venue and test a stream from there, and make sure the Fubo setup is all good. Shout out to my guy, Clearly a Bot in chat. He's helped set me up with the venue. So I know some of you have asked for this. I know some of you can't go, but we've had people, asking for this in the past, and I'm looking forward to finally making this a reality because we've talked about this a ton, but now finally have the setup for it. So come down there, come meet us. If you want tickets, check out the description box below. It says buy watch party tickets here in all caps. So looking forward to that. And that'll be for the Pistons game. After the Pistons game, let me pull up our schedule here. I have a schedule linked in the Discord. So if you're not in our Discord, join our Discord. Also a link in the description box below for that. If you're confused how the Discord works, feel free to ask me, or I want to put out a tutorial video for that. With 3 days off, I might be able to get around to that. But yeah, Discord's like the number one place for the community to meet. So we got Golden State on the road, then Detroit at home. Then we have 3 road games, and then it's like barely any road games after that. So Warriors on the road, Pistons at home, Timberwolves on the road, Pacers on the road, Raptors on the road, all winnable games. Then our next, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19. So after January 8th, like 4 road games in our next 5. Warriors on the road, Pistons at home, T-Wolves, Pacers, Raptors on the road. Then like 15 of our next 19 games are at home. That's absolutely insane. So Magic, Cavs, Mavericks twice. Looking forward to being at that first Mavericks game in pretty good seats because got a hookup from a certain Trailblazer who I'm very fond of. The guy is a great guy. And then Mavericks back-to-back nights. Nuggets on the road, maybe get some revenge, and then Sixers, Lakers, Spurs, Jazz, the Raptors, Hawks. Oh, these are some winnable games, man. Then 3-game road trip, Grizzlies, tough game, but then Wizards and Bulls, winnable games. Then come home, Bucks, Warriors, Thunder, Lakers, Wizards. Like a lot of games in here. Like we play the Wizards twice, we play the Bulls. We play the Raptors twice, who have been struggling. We play the Magic. We play the Lakers at home. Jazz at home. Like, these are all winnable games. Like, I want to see this team really get their feet under them, play consistent defense. If they do, you could be talking about a team in home court advantage at the end of January. Like, if they really take advantage of the schedule, I think you could be talking about a team that's still capable of getting the 1 seed in the West after January's done. Because it is a easier month, and even in February isn't too difficult either, which is just insane, man. Yeah. After January 8th, only 4 games until the All-Star break, which is after the trade deadline. Looking forward to playing a lot of home games, man.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a bad night for the. Strange, I didn't see him in chat, but the Nurk and Dame hate each other, and Josh Hart has bad body language.
Yeah. Who was that guy again? I forget his name. But actually, I have that clip ready because I wanted to play it.
Oh, the Nurk and Dame before the game?
No, there was a clip. I haven't heard it yet, but it says Damian Lillard on his relationship with Yusuf Nurkic, and the NBA tweeted it out.
Oh, okay.
So I figured I wanted to talk about that guy because, on a previous stream, this dude was saying that Dame and Nurk hate each other and Josh Hart's body language was bad. Do you see Josh Hart screaming all hyped?
Yeah, after that fast break, that looked like a guy who had horrible body language.
Yep, and then this was Dame after, so I'll play it. You probably just have to listen to the stream.
Yeah, also, I see that Nurk, or Chauncey says, the YouTube clip of Chauncey's interview says, Nurk, he's such a good teammate, he really cares and wants to win, is the title of Chauncey Billups' interview on YouTube today. Dude,
Nurkic is a great freaking dude, man. Like, there's a reason why I get so bothered by the hate that's given him. Because it's not justified, man. And this fan base is just, some people in this fan base are just absolutely ridiculous towards him. And it drives me crazy. Nurkic is, I talked about it, some of the turnovers at the start of the game was him being unselfish. Like, he's not about his points. He's all about winning, wanting the team to play the right way that will get this team to win. Like, dude, Nurkic is one of my favorite players ever. Just the way he plays, but then also just a really quality dude, man. So love that guy. Anyway.
And in addition to what Dame's about to say, there was also, before the game, Dame and Dame Jr. coming in the tunnel, and Nurk coming up and greeting them and all that stuff. Yeah, it looked like they really hated each other.
Wait, where does that even come from? He said somebody that knows the team told me. Yeah, okay, man. Anyway, this was Dame, 1.5-minute clip, talking about his relationship with Yusuf Nurkic after this game.
Somebody mentioned to me that he said it once before, so this is probably the second time that I heard it. But, that's not something that he's not going to come to me and say, damn, you're the best thing that ever happened in my life. But I think the fact that he said it publicly, I don't think any man would say anything like that unless they really felt that way. And I think it's, people don't say things like that about you unless you're consistent, and you show that you truly support them and you truly care about them. Whether I'm at a high or a low or whatever, you know, I've shown up and been the same way towards him. You know, when he's struggling, I show up and show love to him. When he's doing great, you know, I cheer for him and I root for him. And in the summer, I'm always in touch with him. I'm always checking on him. You know, when he feel like he ain't getting the ball, I tell him, you know, just let me know. I'll drop it in to you. You know, no matter if he's missing, no matter, you know, if he's struggling, you know, I think those are the times that you got to show people you care about him and, you know, and be consistent. And coming from the situation he was in Denver, you know, where he went from starting, he was the top pick, and then he ends up on the bench. And then, you know, the Joker comes and they start rolling with him, and now, you know, he's feeling like the odd man out, and you come into a situation where you embraced the way we've embraced him. You know, I'm sure he does feel like, you know, that was a huge thing for him in his life. So I think the friendship, you know, the true friendship, and then, you know, the belief that I, you know, showed in him from day one.
That's the end of the clip, but yeah, I'm sure these guys hate each other, man. That's the stuff me and you get annoyed at. Just people that come in and just make stuff up just to be negative. Like, too many trolls lately. So glad tonight was better after a win.
Once again, man, how many stars are acting that way towards a teammate or whatever? Like Kevin Durant this year literally said in an interview, like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to win with, have you seen our starting lineup? And then you got guys like Dame who are like embrace guys and try to nurture them, and the leadership he provides to let everyone thrive. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, how could anyone not like Damian Lillard? It's just awesome player. And it's been a joy to watch him all these years.
Yeah, dude, this team is so easy to root for. Like, the dudes on this team are easy to root for, man. Like, Anthony Simon is another one of those guys, just, like, super humble, just seems like generally a good person. And Josh Hart, like, you know what I mean? Like, these are guys that if they play for any fan base, they're so easy to root for. Because they're just quality people. And, you know, Josh Hart's a guy who lays it all out on the floor, super competitive on the court, just kind of a funny, lighthearted guy off of it. Even a guy like Justice Winslow, man, I know I'm critical of the way he plays, but generally seems like a good guy, fun to be around off the court. Like, none of it's personal with any criticism. Even a guy like Drew Eubanks, hometown kid. I've talked to people that knew Drew Eubanks, and they were like, yeah, he's just chill, kind of funny, you know, a little quirky, like, but generally solid guy. You know? So I like rooting for this collection of guys. The Blazers have done a good job of bringing in quality people. I mean, it extends all the way down to Greg Brown III, man. So I enjoy rooting for the guys on this team. You know, moves will probably have to be made to get this team where it needs to go, unfortunately. But shoot, I would love for this collection of players to be able to get there. But even if they don't, it makes it easier to handle because it's guys that you will ride and die with as a fan base, I think. Like, Dame's one of those guys, but multiple guys on this roster are that way. So, you know, some people that matters to, some people it doesn't. That matters to me. So.
Yep.
But I feel like the fans that were there for the Jailblazers days truly appreciate that, where fans that are maybe too young for that don't. Some of them do. Like,
yeah.
I was too young for the Jailblazers days, and I still appreciate that. So, you know, not just a broad statement there, but in general, it's like if you deal with a team, you know, like Jailblazers team, I feel like it makes it easier to appreciate just quality people.
That was so. I mean, what was supposed to be so cool about, like, Roy and Aldridge, too, is, like, you know, they weren't guys that were ever going to get in trouble, like, off the court or anything, so. Yeah. But I
they
mean,
never embraced Portland.
No.
Like Dame has.
And, yeah, even Roy, like, after his playing career, I mean, I know he's done a couple things, but not really involved. And then, yeah, for me, it goes even deeper than the Jailblazers era. It's that, for me, growing up, Clyde Drexler was my favorite player. And, I mean, he didn't even appear on the video thing tonight. That's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we ban that word in chat?
Yeah, we can ban words. I don't know why it's not already.
So
banned.
someone's created 5 accounts now tonight just to
I
say
haven't even seen any of it.
it's the 5th different account that just comes in and says the same word over and over and over again. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, people need to get a life, but I haven't even noticed anything like that because I had top chat on, not live chat. Top chat filters that type of stuff out. But let me just say this. That Clyde thing, that's why Dame's the greatest Blazer ever, because being the greatest Blazer ever, obviously you have to be a great basketball player, but it's more than just what's on the basketball court, in my opinion. Like, to me, it's somebody that, you know, represents the Blazers, like, is involved in the community, wants to be here, embraces this organization. Like, everything that Dame is on and off the floor makes him a great trailblazer. Like, that's part of the equation for me. Talent-wise, you know, you easily make the case that he's the greatest Blazer ever, just in terms of talent and some of his accomplishments and everything. But shoot, like, the tiebreaker for me is everything off of it. Mm-hmm. That's why Dame's the best Blazer ever. Like, he is the epitome of Portland Trailblazer.
Well, then, like, it was right after we traded CJ. I think, like, Clyde was saying, "Oh, Dame needs to ask out of Portland" and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, Clyde's done nothing wrong. He's still, you know, a great player, and I still think of him very fondly from, you know, when I was little. When I was a kid, you know, got his autograph a bunch of times. It used to be a lot easier. You could, like, wait at their cars and stuff for, like, hound them after games. But yeah, so yeah, I just. I mean, I don't think it's any comparison in terms of being a leader and also a great player and just everything you do for an organization. And yeah, it's just, I never really would have thought, you know, later in my life that I would root for someone more than I did when I was a kid, or like people that got you involved into basketball. And yeah, now Dame changed all that for me, and now it's hard to imagine rooting for another player, or having a player as good or as good of a person as Dame is.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, anything else you want to get into on this post-game show?
Well, thanks everyone for watching, and no streams the next couple days, but we'll see you on Thursday for Blazers Uprise Live, and then Friday night, hope to see everyone after we take down the Warriors.
Yep. 2 days off, and then we'll be back on Thursday. There's only one stream in 5 days. Kind of nice, but we'll have at least one video over the next 3 days. That I can promise. And we'll see what it is. But yeah, just stay tuned for that. Follow us on Twitter at ToryJonesYT for me, at HoopShock for Eric, at Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. We will tweet out whenever we drop anything, so you can find out whenever we drop something. We also tag everyone in our Discord, so you can join that with the link in the description. Other than that, watch party tickets are available. Top link, first link you see, so say buy watch party tickets. That link is for the watch party as well.
Yeah, sorry, I do have one more thing to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see how you feel about Dame when he's making $63 million for one season in 4 years. I will feel the exact same I do now. You know why? Because Dame's earned every penny of that, and he deserves the contract. And yeah, so that's not going to change my mind on how I root for him or what kind of person he is. And it's still the same percentage of the salary cap as right now, so that doesn't even matter. And you're just wrong. That Lillard's contract is one of the worst in NBA history when it hasn't even happened yet, bro. So yeah.
Well, there goes my outro.
Yeah. Later. I just had to say it, man.
I mean, people are gonna want and beg for attention. Mm-hmm. This dude coming in here begging for attention by being an ass, like, no, like, we don't need to address that. I mean, look at his name.
Yeah. Well, he says, so why not give him $163 million? So you're arguing that someone's contract is the worst ever, and you don't even understand how contracts work in the NBA. It's the same percentage of the cap that anyone making his level of a player makes is, and so it's not even possible to give him more than what he got. So yeah, just it doesn't even matter. Like, it's just You sound really dumb. But thanks. Have a good night. Appreciate all the rest of you.
Anyway, yeah. Well,
All right, back to join our watch party. Come to our watch party. Meet us in person. Come tell us that in person. You got this, Sam.
Anyway,
I wanted to show that.
Anyway, yeah, hope you have a good rest of your night.
His comeback was "You're ugly."
Yeah,
Thanks. Cool.
I think I'm good looking, so that's all that matters. My confidence ain't based on some dude named Sam Bankman for Fried, who's getting fried right now by the law. So that's cool. And I hope you have a good rest of your night, Eric, and chat. 99% of you, I wish you a good rest of your night as well. I am so disoriented now. We're out of here. We'll see you in 3 freaking days on Thursday on our second channel. Subscribe. I always plug it and say you can subscribe, but you better freaking subscribe so you can catch us on Thursday when we stream once again, because it's going to be a minute until we stream again. But I'm looking forward to seeing you guys later on this week. Have a good rest of your week. The Blazers take care of business. Nurk Nowitzki for 3. 5 times. Career high 3-point made. 28 points for him. Jeremy Grant 30. Dame, greatest Blazer ever. Dame ceremony, awesome. Dame, not overpaid. Dame deserves $100 billion. Goodbye. Until Thursday, as always, peace out and go Blazers.